It's that time of year. Daytona week has arrived in the world of motorsport and also in sim racing. And today we continue that trend with RaceRoom's Daytona 2.4 hours for 2022. We got 3 classes driving with 36 drivers taking the challenge of the high banks here at Daytona International. And there's been a complete physics overhaul of the P2 class and also some changes to the track as well. So we're really excited to see how that is going to work with this ranked event here today, with the drivers just finishing their practice before we go into a qualifying session and then just shy of 2.5 hours of racing here. I'm your commentator, Rodger, and joining me today is Ewan O'Leary and Zach Sweeney. And Ewan, you're pretty familiar with this track after a certain event last week. What do you think we can expect from today's race?
Well, I think we're going to see, a lot of good racing. Hopefully, there's a lot of slipstreaming opportunities around here, obviously, which is really going to open up the kind of fuel strategy that we're going to see throughout this race. 2.4 hours, 2 hours 24. Is that going to be just short enough for a one-stop GT3 race? Quite possibly. Who's going to be able to risk it and do that? Who's going to be able to save fuel in that slipstream? All these things we're going to be finding out over the next 2 hours or so. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a very fitting event to have at this time of year because it really is Daytona season, as you just said there. And it's good to be here, glad to be here, and we are set up for a very good race.
And Zach, yourself a bit less familiar, I should say, with a track like this, but you excited to learn the ways of the high banks here?
Well, yeah, it's certainly not the first time I've been thrown into a new track. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I've done my research to the best of my ability. I know where the track goes, but certainly the whole dynamics of a Daytona race is something I'm looking forward to learn. But yeah, it looks as Ewan said, like there's going to be a lot of slipstream and there's a lot of opportunities to get through. And just shy of 2.5 hours long. It's not an endurance race per se, but it's not exactly a sprint. It's that intermediate between the two where drivers are going to be on the limit, trying to chase those positions, but at the same time thinking ahead of that strategy and their tires and their fuel, etc., and just trying to make the most of things. But yeah, practice is coming to a close and we've got 20 minutes of qualifying. Cam, there's going to be every driver on the limit, giving themselves that best start possible to the 2.4 hours.
Well, certainly there's enough time to make up some positions, but you certainly want to be starting as high up the grid as you can. And just in a second, we will be going into that 20-minute qualifying session, as you just mentioned. So here the drivers go out, and as we said, this P2's DP has had a bit of a complete physics overhaul. So some of the drivers will have obviously been getting used to that and really getting up to speed with what they can do in this car. And obviously for the other cars as well, making sure that you are getting the practice in that you need to set a good qualifying lap. And I think this is going to end up being a really exciting event.
Certainly is. It's going to be a very close qualifying session as well here, really, as we see in these ranked events. A lot of people are going to be looking out to try and win them, of course, try and tick this off on your bucket list, I guess, to try and win this race. It's not quite a full 24-hour race, but that just take forever. It's kind of a bit of a shorter one than this, and you can still say that you've won one of these races because they're very, very hotly contested indeed. So it's going to be very close between everybody, I'd imagine, in this one. And also, as you can see on your screen right now, I'm glad to see the kind of old Daytona prototype on the screen as well. It kind of phased out of existence in 2017, 2016 now. It's getting a long time ago, and I miss it, to be honest. I think it's a fantastic car, and so I'm glad to have it here in RaceRoom, and I'm glad it's getting a run out at the front of the field here tonight.
And also on just such a classic track as well. It's obviously it's known for Daytona's known for the oval side of it, but this road course with this bus stop chicane that we're going through now, and all of the hairpins on the infield, it's such a simple layout on the track map, but the way that it does the endurance racing and the way that it brings the cars close together is looking very good indeed. And here on screen is Alessandro Ottaviani, certainly one to look out for in that GT Porsche. I think he's going to be one to see if he can get up maybe on pole position today, as he chooses the high line to come and start his lap. And Zach, this is going to be your first lap here at Daytona, so let's see what you think.
Well, yeah, as you say, it certainly looks simplistic on the track map, but that is far from it. You come into a very, very quick and quite tight decreasing radius of turn one, and Ottaviani's just got to negotiate it as best he can. Wants to get a good lap in to start off with. You take a nice sort of late apex and get the power down as best you can. He's got the DP right behind him. That's not going to be slightly ideal for their lap time, but certainly as he approaches the first of two horseshoes, you get on the brakes, you bring it nice and tight to the inside, and again get a nice straight line coming out of it, and then there's a bit of a kink before you then go in towards the western horseshoe, if I do remember correctly, which I do think I do. And then you obviously go back onto the banking where it's completely flat out. You've got to maximise and just minimise the amount of distance you're getting around the circuit through the next hairpin, and then you have a little bit of a left before you then open the steering up, get onto that banking, and just absolutely floor it. Which again is going to be one of those sites of strategical masterminds. Maybe that you're playing that long game, sitting in the slipstream for sure will save you some fuel, because you don't want to be by yourself through that banking. You're going to be wasting a lot of fuel for sure. But just look at the sheer incline of that banking as he goes through. But opting for the inside line, just keeping it as short as you can, using the banking to rotate the car, and it's truly magnificent. And then of course you slam on the anchors for this very fast but relatively tight bus stop chicane, that left, right, left, and then back onto the banking to finish the lap. And it seems to be pretty tidy for Ottaviani, and he's sort of caught the Porsche just in front of him as well, and might be getting a bit of a slipstream as well, which will be helping him. But with 36 cars and a relatively short circuit, Cam, it's about picking your moments and just getting that clear air for qualifying.
Yeah, the clear air I think is going to be quite important factors. We're getting some of these times coming. Let's see where Ottaviani is going to be putting himself on the list. Looks like it's going to be 7th place overall, which seems to be first place already, and half a second in front of his Finnish Cravey compatriot there. Not too bad of a start. Let's see how this can go. We've seen obviously some of the other times come in. Some of the GT3 cars set their times in. So it looks like actually the difference between the classes is only maybe about 2-3 seconds between each one before we're looking back now at one of the Corvettes there in the GT category. They're going for a bit of a swim for Johan Royer. He's going to have to come back in and go out for another lap.
Yeah, easy to get the power down too early through on the exit of turn one and get things wrong. But yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that the gaps are quite so close between the three classes. You can see only 7 tenths between the worst of the DPs for the moment and the Ottaviani driven Porsche at the top of GTE at the moment. So that is a bit of a surprise to me, and that's going to be a problem during the race really. Normally traffic is manageable when the gaps are fairly large. Obviously too large of a gap is dangerous in itself as well. You don't want Mazda MX-5s and LMP1s out on the same field, for example, but this also is a bit of a problem because it's going to actually be quite difficult for the DPs to get through pretty much anywhere apart from on the banking. And when a lot of this circuit is in the infield, it's quite tight and twisty, not really what the DPs are quite suited to. That is going to be an issue during the race, and I'm sure there is going to be a lot of frustrated drivers, both DPs and GTs, out there throughout the race.
And the interesting point, if you look, Ottaviani is actually only about 7 tenths behind Hyde, and even just a little bit more from Schneider there. So the difference between the fastest in one class and slowest in another isn't too much. That's going to be good in some ways because it means those DPs won't be held up so much, but they'll also then struggle a little bit more to make the overtakes, as you say. And just look how close the top three are in the P2 category. Just 66 thousandths of a second between Sebastian Ray and Kasper Rink as well as Markovic there for the top three. So looking very close indeed, but still over 13 minutes to go. It looks like Markovic here coming up to start another lap. I'm sure they're going to be trying to get every last thousand out of these cars, because you certainly want to be starting as high as you can, because some of these drivers, they're going to be doing obviously the whole race on their own, and they don't really have obviously loads to do in strategy in a 2.5 hour race, so you really want to be making sure you're at the front.
Yeah, for sure. That's why qualifying is certainly very important, and it's such fine margins, as you say. Look at it, just over half a tenth separating the top three, and then it sort of does space itself out. You've got Mackenberg, then Barea just sort of spread themselves out 3 tenths and then 5 tenths, and then it gets a little bit closer between Nagy and Hyde there for 6th and 7th. But yeah, it's awkward, and Mackenberg actually puts in the fastest time, goes quicker than Ray by around about 3/100th of a second. A 39.989 is the benchmark to beat. But it's only provisional. We're not even halfway through the session just yet. They're finding their feet, getting acclimatized to the circuit. Of course, these the DPs were only changed a couple of days ago. They still could be getting used to it and finding their feet in terms of where the grip level is, where the maximum point of the where the limit is. You've got to be driving the car on the limit or as close to that in qualifying as you can. So yeah, I think we're going to see the times come down. Of course, you can see Markovic getting stuck behind this McLaren, which again could ruin a lap, but it could could be why we're seeing the likes of Schneider so close to Vianney, because maybe they get hauled up a little bit by some of the slower classes. We don't know, and until we see some cars put some clean laps in, we just don't know where the field stacks up.
And he set a purple sector 1, so he obviously had some good speed, and that would put him comfortably just that sector alone. But then he's lost half a second in that second sector, so I don't think this lap specifically is going to be the one to potentially get him on provisional pole. But as you say now, just a 10th covering the top 4, so getting very close in that P2 category, but also in the GTEs. Got Webster now just over a 10th behind Otto Vianney, but as Markovic comes to the line, I think he's going to be just a little bit too far off to improve on this one. Yeah, about 7/10 off there in the end, but it's certainly got time to do another lap as well. But also very close in the GT3 category as well. Those top 3 drivers all in different chassis as well, and only just a couple of tenths here and there between really the top 5-6 of those cars. So I think all 3 classes looking pretty close so far.
Yeah, they certainly are, and especially at the front of the field, the top 4 separated by less than a tenth. But then, strangely, there is a big gap down to 5th position there with Barrera. So, that is a bit strange, and I'm expecting a few more from the Daytona prototype field to be able to improve that little bit and get up the order a little bit further. This is Kirill Sokovikov, by the way, who's got a pretty good rating, as you can see, and he's one to watch today. Certainly going to be one of the very, very quick drivers. We are expecting him to be up there. Although when I was looking through a little bit earlier, he hasn't actually done any ranked racing at all in 2022 yet. So this is he's going to be dipping his toe into ranked racing for 2022. I'm sure he's been doing other stuff, maybe elsewhere, and even on RaceRoom elsewhere as well. But yeah, this is a bit of a new beginning, and using the what are we going to call it? Chevrolet? I can't even remember. Chevrolet Camaro. That's it. I've just remembered. There it is from the GT3 category. It's something you don't see very often either anymore, but it's out there in 4th position and 2nd position at the moment in GT3.
Yeah, what a car that is. It's quite iconic. It looks like he's actually just pulling over for now, just maybe to let a couple of the cars through. Yeah, a bit of an iconic car as we come here to Lapinik as well, another Russian driver there, currently in 2nd place and just shy off just over 2/10 off the pole position in that category from Harris. And let's see, as I think he's come around to probably on an out lap as well, but again the sort of older generation cars, but still looking good on these high banks of Daytona, and really going to be pushing for Mikhail there, and decent starting position for him in that top 3 at the moment. But hopefully he can try and make a little bit of an improvement, because the times are so close. Just a 10th here and there will potentially get you a couple of positions, and that is always what you want to be doing. Currently down in 24th overall, and it looks like Mackenberg there has been overthrown by Kasparink, who's gone 4,000 of a second faster at the top of the standings, and it's getting even closer there at the front.
Yeah, it is such fine margins, as you said. A 10th or 2 could see you up a few places. It's just so close, and such fine margins, and that is probably just a tribute to this circuit, because there's not really much. You're on the banking for quite a bit of it. That's just completely flat out. It's all made up through this infield section, whether that's just braking that little bit later, getting the car a little bit more tipped in, staying on the brakes that 1 second longer, or getting on the throttle that 1 second earlier. It's just, and Mackenberg straight away tips him back a 39.625. That's probably the biggest margin for pole we've seen so far this session. 3.5 tenths back to Kasparink. That was a stellar lap in the DP, and well, we said it was close. Is anyone going to be able to get close enough to that? That was just stellar. Is he going again even through sector 1? Wow, that is just that. Yeah, well, that is, we said it was close. It's not anymore, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I do wonder if he just managed to get a clean lap and then just nailed every single corner that he did. Look at the sector times on the time as well, especially his middle sector was 3/10, 4/10 quicker than some of the drivers around him. So really nailing that middle sector that he's in at the moment, and he's only just shy of a 10th down in that first sector as well. So Ewan, I think this is going to be another decent lap and maybe could improve.
Yeah, maybe. Let's hope that he doesn't get stalled by traffic in the bus stop here, which would really ruin him at this stage. But yeah, it's looking fairly good as we go on board, and just see if we can nail the bus stop with all the pressure of the cameras and whatever for Mackenberg. But yeah, just tap on the brakes a little bit and down a couple of gears, try and monster these curbs and try not to run over them too much, as he actually goes back to the pit lane straight away. They're clearly not impressed with himself through that bus stop chicane, so it goes back to the pit lane, and so we'll be trying again a little bit later on. But yeah, for now he's got nearly 4 attempts at the front. It's still plenty of time for that to change, but yeah, he is in the driving seat right now. I just think it's very difficult for these Daytona prototypes to really improve at this stage. The traffic is just so spread out. It means you're almost certain to catch one at some point throughout your lap. You've got to be extremely lucky, in my opinion, to get a clean lap together, and that's probably what you need, or well, almost definitely what you need, if you want to beat Mackenberg here.
And just looking at the GTE category, Ottaviani, he's now about half a second quicker than Webster, so he's done an improvement on his time. But looking at his sector times, he only really gained in the final sector, but he gained pretty much all that half a second in that final sector, which is pretty much just the bus stop and the run to the line. So he's obviously nailed that bus stop that time round to go that half a second quicker than Webster. So Ottaviani really looking like the one to beat in that GTE category. So good job from him so far. As we're going to see Josh Webster here, the Brit coming around the banks to try and start another lap.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do, trying to represent for Great Britain. We've got some drivers inside the top 10 representing, and but yeah, it looks like Ottaviani is the man to beat. Of course, one lap in quali doesn't transfer into the just shy of 2.5 hours of racing. You've got to be consistent. That's going to be the main thing, and of course, getting that strategy right. And even though it's on a lesser scale here, and that is a lovely little slide from Josh Webster through turn 1 there. Not going to gain him the most lap time, but he certainly wins style points for that one. But yeah, just it's all about consistency, and I'm sure Ottaviani has practiced this stint and gotten that car consistent, but you can't really look at qualifying times. Yes, he's very quick, but maybe that speed in qualifying is going to be both a blessing and a burden for the race ahead, because if he's got a fast car usually means a twitchy car, and a twitchy car is going to get away from you and lose you a race. But we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. He might just be that quick.
That is a good point indeed. It's not just about the qualifying. You've got to be able to do it in the race as well. Obviously, a bit of a strategy involved in the race, because obviously it's a fairly long stint, but also it's not out of reach for maybe some drivers who want to save a bit of fuel, maybe want to try going towards the one stop as well in the GT categories at least. But either way, you're probably going to have a double 2 pit stops to make at some point, and obviously working that out and keeping yourself on track and not going into the pit lane unless you need fuel is probably the best way to do it. Making mistakes, making crashes is not the way to win the 2.4 hours of Daytona. And just as we come up to 4 minutes to go, we're on board with Harris Ever now, with Salo, who has taken the pole position in that GT3 category in the old Callaway Corvette, and he is now on that pole by less than a tenth of a second. So once again, very close, and it looks like it's going to be getting even closer in the remaining minutes.
Yeah, it probably will do, using one of the older Corvettes here once again. But yeah, when I was looking through earlier, once again, rating not that high, because he actually hasn't done very many ranked races at all, and none of them were in this GT3 category. So he's clearly experienced in this car. He knows what he's doing, and is running out quite well at the moment. Not a big margin, and it's even closer now because Sokovikov has just gotten into that second position ahead of Lapnik to pull within 1/10 of Salo right now. But yeah, he's clinging on for the moment. It's the Finnish driver, trying to stop the two Russians behind. We've got Mackenberg and Harris here as well, very close. GT3 by far the closest category at the moment, because Ottaviani is absolutely monstering everybody in GTE, and up in the Daytona prototype category, we've got nearly half a second up towards the front of the field, and half a second right now covers a good 6 cars in GT3, including the Alpine, I believe, that is in 6th position at the moment.
Yeah, the GT3 class is interesting because it's the only one that has different chassis, but it's ironic. Oh, it's a bit of a slide there from Markovic. Good power sliding out of the West Horseshoe. But yeah, the GT3 category, they've got different chassis, so there's going to be slight differences between the cars, obviously. But it seems to be the closest on track, which is very interesting. The drivers of the GTE and the prototype category as well, really just showing obviously their driver skill there as well to get that gap at the front. And Markovic, is he going to be improving in that middle sector after that slide, or is he going to be sort of slowing down, trying to get a better run for his next one? And yeah, it looks like 1.8 seconds slower. I think he's trying to build himself up for another lap as we hit 2 minutes to go, and the session will end at 0, so you really need to be starting your lap time now, otherwise you won't be able to finish it.
Yeah, that's the way RaceRoom works. It isn't like other sims where when the timer ends and the checkered flag is out, you can finish your lap. You then, as soon as it hits 0, doesn't matter if you're on your lap, doesn't matter if you're on for pole, it will stop you, it will end your session. So it's all about timing your lap time right. He started that very closely as well, so he's got to get around pretty quickly and hopefully improve. He at the moment just shy of 5/10 off pole position in his category. Let's see if Markovic can do it. But I just had to take a double take for a moment, because I looked down in the GT3 and we got we had Rizzo, Norbauer and Montero all separated by 5,000ths of a second. So as you say, even though they're different chassis, it's incredibly close, and I certainly cannot wait for this race today, because yeah, it's definitely going to be some good action, and RaceRoom certainly going to deliver for the audience we've got tonight. But yeah, let's see. He's slightly slower to the first sector. He's got to hook it up, but he did encounter a bit of traffic with Markovic, so it's not ideal. And again, another bit of a twitch off the exit of the West Horseshoe. Doesn't seem to be the location he's particularly fond of, but yeah, we'll see how he negotiates the second sector and then the final one. And that's not very well. Off he goes, and a nice little 360 pirouette. So maybe he should take up ballet instead.
Yeah, that's going to be the end of his session, though, so he's not going to be higher than that 4th place that he is currently in. But here is William Berg, the Italian driver, coming around the final corner. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, so let's see the qualifying results on the screen. We've got Sven Mackenberg there, leading the way from Michael Kasterink in the 2nd place, and then Sebastian Ree for the P2 class. Then down there in the GTEs, we've got Ottaviani, Webster and Tolsma, the top 3 in that Porsche GTE. And I think we'll be pretty swiftly moving on into the race as well. But I do believe it'll be a bit of a rolling start for these drivers to get themselves a bit prepared before we get into the 2 hours and 24 minutes of this race. And then you see there Salo, Sokovic, and also Lapinik for the GT3s. They're your top 3 there, and the rest of the drivers all the way down. And as you see, yeah, Nobar and Montoro are equal on their time on a 46.935, which is really good to see. So Ewan, I think we are expecting a really close race here.
We certainly are. The qualifying times are very close indeed, and so yeah, we're looking forward to this race. But yeah, rolling start is going to be the order of the day this time. We wouldn't want standing starts on the banking. That could be completely disastrous for everybody. So thankfully, we're not doing that. But yeah, no formation lap. We're just going to dive straight into it. No waiting around. No anticipation. To be honest, personally, I think I'd quite like that as a driver. Not too much time for the nerves to completely overwhelm you as well. For everybody, especially if you're in one of the starting front positions in this race, that would be it could start to build up. So straight in for these guys, and they're going to have to be on it right from the word go here, right into turn 1, because it's going to be a very close race. The slipstream is going to keep them very close together. The thing to note over the first few laps or the first few minutes, who is saving fuel, who's just going all out for the entire race.
So here we go, 2 hours and 24 minutes on the clock. Drivers going out onto their rolling start. And when we get round to the start-finish line, we'll be going for the 2.4 hours of Daytona for 2022 here on RaceRoom. And there's going to be obviously more events like this over the year, so do get yourself on, get yourself involved when the events pop up, and you will be able to potentially get yourself on one of these broadcasts. So let's have a look to see how these drivers are going to cope as we get down to turn one. There's obviously going to be cold brakes, cold tyres. Drivers need to get back used to having the race fuel in the car as well from being so light down there in qualifying. Mackenberg and Castering here to take us away from the front of the grid. And then we're going to be getting racing here for 2.4 hours in Daytona with Sebastian Ray not too far behind them. Precast is 36 drivers. They all want to win the race. So let's see who is going to come out on top as they just come around to the start-finish line, and we will be going racing. So let's see how Mackenberg can defend down towards turn number one. We've got Kaspering on the outside. Can he do anything, or is he just going to have to tuck in behind for now? As we see Ray and Markovic, they're having a bit of a side-by-side battle, but Markovic is is going to come out on top of that in that third place. Ray is going to be there in fourth place as he now is going to try and go round the outside here in the International Horseshoe, and it looks like the prototypes at least having a pretty clean start. But what have you seen behind?
Big old bit of a kerfuffle going on behind. Not everyone getting away cleanly. That is the thing with having such a close grid and so many cars on the grid going into such a tight corner. But it seems like the front runners in the DP class have gotten away relatively cleanly. Mackenberg leads from Kaspering, Ray, Markovic and Nagy are your top five. Viani has had a great start. Look at all of them Porsches as they go through the Western Horseshoe. Great start from quite a few people, but Viani just making the most of everything. He's on an absolute charge, and you can see Hammer, he's under pressure from quite a few people. This is Viani. He's got Barrera just behind him, probably going to get past, and then comes Webster, who tried to contest him in qualifying, couldn't quite get close enough to him, and Viani seems definitely to be the man to beat. Same too with Mackenberg in the DP class. Not too much action to report at the moment and the front runners of most people, but they all come through the banking for the first time, and it's going to be Slipstream Fest. Just look at that train of Porsches all the way down in towards the bus stop. We've got Chris Williams, and then comes Majonas and Muller looking to the inside of the bus stop. Had a bit of a look, but again, just couldn't quite convert, and it's a very chaotic lap so far.
And yeah, it looks like the top three of the GTEs managed to stay in line despite the fact that they were actually overtaking some of the DPs at the end there. But it looks like Carton has got to the front in the Alpine. He was from sort of 5th or 6th place on the grid, but he's got to the front of the GT3 category with Lapanik there in 2nd place. Mackenberg has dropped all the way down to 4th place in class, as we see him getting a nice slipstream there on Sokovic, and he is going to be having to try and get that slipstream down into towards turn number one. But Kaspering here, as we come into the infield for a second time, is staying pretty close, and I think we're going to see these two have a nice little battle.
It certainly looks like it from these opening laps. Yeah, it was an astonishing start from Carton, as you mentioned there, in the GT3 category, and indeed in this front-running category. The only Daytona prototype really having problems throughout that one was Malte Schneider in the Daytona prototype. It's always all the way down outside the top 30 overall at the moment, so not the greatest start for him. But GTE was very lively indeed. Free wide into the West Horseshoe we saw one lap ago, and the battle's still continuing on down the inside for Hammer, trying to stay in front of Bissett by the looks of things. Not able to, though. Nice crisscross from Bissett there to be able to get through onto the banking into NASCAR 1 and 2 here once again. Nice move down the inside from Hammer, but he wasn't able to keep it whatsoever. The exit onto this banking, very, very important, as you might be able to imagine. And Bissett just displaying it there, although he's under a bit of pressure now into the bus stop chicane. The slipstream quite powerful, and these guys not willing to sit around and save fuel here at all. They're absolutely battling, as you can see, just up in front and across the grass goes Bissett, trying to defend his position very hard indeed. He's pushed a little bit too hard and he's lost a few places.
I think Williams and Mazonis and I think Muller now just getting past him as well. So that is just how difficult that bus stop chicane can be if you get it a bit mixed up. And here we got Mats Muller getting a bit of a run on Mazonis, and let's see if he can get slipstream towards turn number one. I think he's just going to have to pull back in for now, unless he's going to go for a dive down the inside. Yes, he swaps to the inside. Can he get it under the brakes on the inside? Although actually Mazonis is going to go really wide, far too deep. He's going to obviously lose some positions with the come back on the track, and there goes another couple of positions for him. So the guys, Zach, are really going for this and trying to get these places in the opening laps.
I honestly thought he was just going to absolutely send it around the outside of Williams, but no, he just went on an adventure. He got lost a little bit, but yeah, he's more lost than me around Daytona, I think, is the story there. And we can still see Mazonis look into the inside of Vozela into the kink there, but again, just can't quite convert. And that's the thing, all of these Porsches are in just one massive train, one mistake, one place lost, you lose that momentum, you lose that driving, that momentum forward, and it just destroy your momentum completely. This is Mazin, it's just going to send one to the outside onto the bank, and beautifully done, but just can't get that drive. He's going to have the slipstream down and towards the bus stop chicane. This is for P10 in class, remember, and it's just a long train. But yeah, back to what I was saying, it's like in kart racing where they're so close, bumper to bumper. You lose one, you're going to lose two, maybe even three, maybe even four, depending on how bad it is, because you're all stuck on that one racing line. If you get knocked off it, everyone's just going to come pushing their way through, and then jobs are good and you've lost a few places. So it's all about picking your moments, and that's going to set the story for the rest of this race for sure.
It certainly is, and that has sort of opened up a couple of gaps here and there, but these guys still battling hard where they are near the car. There's sort of less than a second between all of these cars at the front of the mid-pack of the GTEs, and look around the outside there, way more speed. I wonder if Bissett there having a bit of a lift off the throttle, because he was so much slower there and doesn't look like it's anything to do with the exit. I think maybe he was just letting Mazonis go past and maybe trying to get a bit of slipstream back towards turn number one, or maybe a bit of a fuel saving there to try and sit in the slipstream. But once again, was that him last lap as well, going a bit wide in turn one, and once again just losing a couple more positions. So we now get Williams battling side by side coming into the international horseshoe. Getting very close for the cars around him. I think to be in front of him, and Hammer just behind. And as we come up to the King once again, they just file back in to single file.
Yeah, trying to almost take it three wide into the international horseshoe there. The 911 numbered car in the background, and now the dive from Hammer, looking to get down the inside, and he's got through. Remember, a couple of laps ago went across the grass at the bus stop, which meant he lost a couple of places, but he's back up into 13th overall now, just going to be 6th place in the GTE category, making decent progress as they all try and get up the order here. The surprising amount of elbows out early on in this race. I have to say, I was expecting a little bit more calmness in the opening moments. I don't know why, because it's been complete madness from some early on in this one. But yeah, very entertaining battling nonetheless, as we see even the Daytona prototype starting to get in on the action now. I feel like it's been a little bit calmer up here, but even so, there are still a few positional changes going on. There might be another one here. A bit of a squeeze there from Ray. Not able to keep that position though. Down to 5th for him.
Yeah, we got Vasegi Naj there going down the inside of Ray with a bit of a run there on the banking part of the track, but now we come to the infield, and Ray's got to try and come past. He was up into that 3rd place, so these two drivers got past him in the opening 8 minutes of this race. Ray trying to get down the inside, but that's going to have a bit of a worse exit, and that's going to give Markovic just a little bit of respite there in that 3rd place at the moment, just enjoying that, as the top two have pulled away just a little bit, just a couple of seconds up the road, with Kasperink there in 2nd place. Mackenberg still leading the way, but for now Vasegi Naj is trying to defend and see actually if he can now start to attack Markovic and see if he can get himself on the podium for now.
Yeah, it's all provisional at this point, and he's 2nd in a 3-car train, probably arguably one of the worst places you can be, because he's looking forward, trying to get himself onto the podium, but at the same time he's got Ray breathing down his neck. Well, not necessarily breathing down his neck, but sort of, he can see him in his mirrors. He's got that pressure behind him, and he's just got to be careful. And we now cut our attention back to the GTEs. There's just absolute train of Porsches. It's going to give us some great racing, I'm sure. And the analogy I used earlier, kart racing, it really is just as if they're driving go-karts around here. They're just nose to tail all the way around, and very decisive, very close, and very fine margins, as we saw in qualifying as well. And this is Marco Rosler on the back of Hammer. 2 Germans going to try and go at it, but again, it's just about, you don't want to battle and lose that slipstream too early, because it's going to be so crucial in this race. I think that, and that is very deep into the horseshoe. That is, his left foot is going to be through the floor, I reckon, and definitely going to be cramped up for sure, and that you might need a change of underwear as well. But he's still in this race. He didn't go into the back of Hammer, thankfully for him and for Hammer's race. But yeah, it's going to be so close, and it's all about not losing that slipstream, picking your moments, picking your battles just right, because if you lose the slipstream, it's going to be very hard to get back onto the back of that train.
And a bit of slipstream's always going to help you around here, just to keep up with the cars ahead. As Chris Williams here now trying to go around the outside of Muller, or trying to get a bit of a switcheroo to get a run towards the international horseshoes. Muller goes a bit wide, and that's going to allow Hammer down the inside there, and he's going to be able to get that position quite nicely. And now Muller's having to defend into the horseshoe. Is Hammer now going to dive it down the inside? Yes, he is. Is this going to be two places in the space of the same amount of corners, which he just is? There's a bit of contact. Muller goes wide, and now Hammer's going to Williams, I should say, going to be getting past as well. So there are two places lost there for Muller, with a bit of contact as well. So I'm sure he's not going to be overly happy with that one. Two places in a couple of corners. What we wanted. Oh, there's going to be too wide for Williams. Is going off there. He's going to be losing multiple positions, and Ewan is starting to get a bit chaotic here in midfield.
Yeah, a lot of these GT cars especially struggling with the braking, especially down to turn number one. I know that it's very difficult to break down there. It's obviously turning while you're braking, coming off the banking all at once. Very, very difficult. We have a surprising amount of issues for these GTE cars in particular through that opening section, as I believe there's a battle going on for the lead in GT3 as well as all of these ones in GTE right now. So yeah, it is hard to know where to look. I do believe, though, that we do already have possibly three cars out of this race in the form of Schneider, Webster and Harris, one from each category in this race. Not confirmed, because I'm not entirely sure, but they are already lapped down, only minutes into this race, as we see the big battle going on for the lead in GT3. Recently, Carton has been leading for the first 10 minutes or so, but Sokovikov has had enough of following the Alpina around, and now he is into the lead ahead of Lapanik, who's watching on from third.
Yeah, nice battle here for the GT3s, keeping as close as they were in the qualifying session, which is good, because we were just doubting if they could do that. But look at the slipstream towards turn number one as well. Three different manufacturers is also what you want to see in fourth, if you include Peccio there in that fourth place. But for now, Carton's going to have to try and get a bit of a wider line here, get a bit of a run towards the international horseshoe. And just interesting fact, all these drivers here in these G3s are on the hard compound tyres, but there's a couple of mediums mixed in there, as we now see Carton try to go to the outside once again to get a bit of a switchback, get a bit of a run on the exit, side by side on the exit. Can they get the power down, wiggling a bit, so they go side by side as we get towards the kink here in the mid part of this infield section. But he's just going to have to back out of that one for now as we get to this really difficult sequence of corners, because you sort of turn in really late. It leaves the door open on the inside, but it looks like they're going to stay there in those positions for now.
For now, for sure, but look at Carton absolutely pushing the limits of that Alpina as they go back onto the banking, and they've got four different manufacturers all within the top four, and they're all very, very close indeed. Carton now has got the slipstream all the way down towards the bus stop chicane. Has he got the straight line speed though? Has he got the determination to get through? Because Sokovikov is making that Camaro as wide as it possibly can be. Looks like Carton isn't quite close enough to convert this move this time around, but look at the closing speed. He's closing just before they reach the bus stop, and it just isn't enough. So he's got to tuck in, but he seems to be very quick through the infield section. You can see he was getting such good runs off the infield and off the horseshoes especially. But I think that he's got the panic behind him. He's got that pressure behind him. He doesn't want to end up losing the position, because it's very easy to set up the switcheroo and go for those cutbacks. But when you've got a car behind you that, if you turn in late enough, is going to send one to the inside, it sort of puts you off a little bit, because you try and set up the switcheroo, but then you've got a car on your inside, and it's that balancing act. But it looks as though, because Pacheco's joined in, that the panic is his attention is turned off the top two. So Carton is free now to try and get onto the back of Sokovikov once more as they enter the infield.
And we've had some things happening in the GTE category. Muller's gone to the back of the GT, so is Bissett and Williams as well. They've obviously had some things, some incidents going on, as we've already seen in the opening few minutes of this race. So yeah, Williams there dropping down to 17th overall towards the back of this GTE field. Also, yeah, Bissett and Muller just behind him being involved in those. So I think they're getting past Heinrich there as they come out onto the banking for another lap. And let's see how Williams can get this slipstream as we head down towards the bus stop. And these GTE guys certainly going at it and being very feisty.
Yeah, they certainly are. We've been providing the entertainment so far as Williams goes to the outside into the bus stop chicane. We'll see if Bissett might fancy his chances in following through here, but Williams hasn't made the move himself just yet, trying to tuck in. The car's getting connected just a little bit. They all make it through, though, thankfully. And Heinrich escapes with the position in 16th. So, this is for a lower place in GTE. But the slipstream is so massive on these bankings on the oval section that Williams might even be able to give it a go into turn 1 here. I know he's quite a long way back, might be just too far back at this stage, but you do gain a whole load of speed. This it looks like he's going to be trying a move here as well, all at once, but not quite able to as they break into turn 1. Let's hope they all get it right on this occasion. It's been difficult so far, but all three of them nailing it on that particular occasion. And so, they're all going to continue on single file, nose to tail.
And back in the GT3 categories, Carlton's got back to the front of that field with Lapinit getting up into that second place as well. So changes for position all over the place, all up and down the different categories. Even
that's
just behind
damage
them actually.
For Sokovikov, it looks like, I don't know if it's the livery or if that is damaged.
I think it might be, yeah. So there's obviously been a bit of contact there, and interesting, that's on his front. So he was leading, but then he's got damage on his front. So obviously that might have happened after losing that place. And look at that bonnet. He's gone on the grass there. He's going to lose another position now to Pacheco, who's getting up into third place. As we have actually one of the GTEs with a British just behind them. So loads of things happening here, Zach, and they're starting to damage the cars. So hopefully that doesn't continue too badly, because we like hard racing, but we want everyone to continue.
Yeah, it might be a premature pit stop for Sokovikov. We ourselves in the commentary booth are unsure as to when they're going to be coming into the pit lane, but it certainly seems to be soon for the man who was leading this race for just a moment ago actually. But whatever happened, it is a shame, and they've been fighting so hard this entire race so far, and these things will happen. It's racing. It's the sort of the consequence of them fighting so hard and going at it wheel to wheel. But we certainly haven't been robbed of any action, and for this to be the only incident, I think is definitely a tribute to the pinnacle level of racing we've got here. We've got some of the best drivers on RaceRoom on this grid, and they're all going at it, all chasing those top positions. And we're all racing drivers, and especially for these guys, they're the top of their game. They're gonna want to be proving it.
They certainly are indeed. And I just wonder if there's going to be, I should say, a premature pit stop. Not anything just yet, and certainly keeping up there, but I do wonder if there's going to be maybe at some point a slightly earlier pit stop for that car. But we'll see as Salo's now trying to get back past him, and always British goes off there as well. So that just shows you how the GTEs can get involved, as Sokovikov there getting past, I think, as well. But Salo, they're up into fourth place in class, just slowly making some progress up there, and Pacheco not too far up the way, so Salo could be fighting for that podium in the not too distant future. But Mackenberg here, who's our pole sitter, if you remember back to the start of this race, and he has potential now to gain a position here. As Sokovikov there going off again. I do wonder if he's going to have to do some sort of damage repair or something.
Yeah, he's surely got a pit here at the end of this lap. First of all, the straight line speed in that Camaro right now can't be great because of that great big bit of damage he's got up towards the front. There's going to be creating a lot of drag there, but also it doesn't look like it's handling well. Looks like it's understeering quite a lot through that kink at turn number 4. That's going to need repairing really for Sokovikov, and I'm really expecting to see him in. It's a real shame because he's really one of the candidates we outlined at the start of the day as to one of those who might be able to win this, but in the end not turned out very well for him. He's not out of it though, let's not forget. There's 2 hours 6 remaining in this race. If he pits now, it will certainly be a 2-stop strategy, but it will be a slightly shorter one in terms of fuel. He can put all the fuel in and then run 2 full tanks dry to the end of this race. So he's not out of it yet certainly, but he's going to need to pit, and that has writ large for us over the last couple of laps. He's finally kind of surrendered to the inevitable almost, and finally comes down pit lane. We'll be taking on those repairs and putting in a little bit more fuel, going up, racing around for another hour you'd hope, but let's just see how long that damage repair is going to take.
Yeah, I do wonder, maybe he was just waiting a couple of laps to see what the damage was like, and also, I should say, get closer to that 2-hour mark to make the race to the end, the strategy to the end, a little bit easier on that regard. But Carton has now lost the lead again to Lapinick. So these guys constantly changing position at the front of the field, and Pacheco is caught up there for that third place as well. So these guys really going at it and giving us some good battling. The GT3 category certainly seems to be the closest in that regard. Still good battles as we've seen already in the other categories, but the GT3 seems to be something else, especially with all the different chassis and manufacturers there, looking really good indeed. But for now, Carton's just sitting there behind, about 6/10 behind Lapinick, and he's going to have to try and catch that one up to not let him get too much further away.
Yeah, as you say, we've got the best racing, the closest racing in the class, in the category that's got the most diverse set of cars, because the other two are just one chassis. But this one, we've got a diverse set, and when we looked at the lead battle a few laps ago, it was 4 different manufacturers inside the top 4, all separated by virtually nothing as they went through the banking. So yeah, it's nice to see. And Carton, he's got Pacheco for company, and then Salo 2 seconds back. But all the focus is going into Lapinick. But Pacheco is absolutely flying. Going to pull to the right-hand side. It's going to be the outside for turn 1 if he can hold it. Has he got the slingshot? You can see we've got Carton on the inside. Is he going to be committed enough? No, he's just going to have to tuck in. Look at the slingshot that Pacheco's got in towards turn 1. And is he now going to be the driving force, that front runner trying to push himself and Carton back onto the panic? Because yeah, he's going to have to. He's overtaken. He said to Carton, hey, I'm quicker. We can go and catch. And if he doesn't deliver on that promise, Carton is going to try and come straight back through.
Yeah, that was a really powerful overtake there, just showing the straight line speed that he's got, and working his way up into that second place for Pacheco. I think he's going to be going challenging Lapinick there as well. That's something we have to obviously think of this as we get further later on into the race, later on into the stints, when the tyres start wearing, the drivers start getting a bit more tired. That's when you're also going to see the difference. Being consistent for the whole 2.5 hours, or just shy of 2.5 hours of this race, is really where you're going to be winning those positions, especially when we get to that second half of the race. It doesn't matter if you have the fastest lap, if then your average is half a second slower than your rivals. Obviously, you're going to be just losing places over time. But Pacheco is making some good progress. And I think before we know it, Lapinick is going to have some more challenging situations as we're getting a good battle here in the GTE category.
Yeah, not had a look at Tosma just yet as we've got a spin in the background. Mazonis, who's been having real problems with turn 1 today. We've seen him outbrake himself multiple times and now gone for a spin at turn number 1 there, I'm afraid, leaving these guys to fight between themselves over 6th position. Vosler looks like he's going to be able to take that one on the inside line, although Tosma not going to let him have that one. They rub a little bit on the exit of the International Horseshoe, but nothing doing. They're going to, I thought Vosler had it done, but then he went wide through the kink, and it's still on here going into the West Horseshoe. And it looks like finally the German is going to have this one, just about. Every time I say that, though, Tosma keeps going back at him. But yeah, Mazonis, I'm afraid, having another problem at turn number 1. It's really not been his day for that, as we got a steward's decision come through for Sokovikov. A drive-through penalty. He's already down to 34th overall, over 1 lap down in the GT3 category, and it's just got worse for him, I'm afraid, because he's going to have to make another trip down pit lane.
Yeah, that's not good. We're getting a bit of bum draft in there. A little bit of contest, I think, between Tosma there and Vosler, trying to get all the slipstream, all of the run towards the bus stop. And actually, he's going to just back out of that one a little bit, not battle that one too hard. But yeah, these drive-through penalties. So, I mean, it's not the longest pit lane in the world, but it's still not something that you want to be doing. Just adding 20-30 seconds to your race time. And especially when you're already coming in the pit lane for damage repairs. Yeah, just sort of had insult to injury, as they say, with that one. So yeah, that is going to be a bit of a difficult situation for him to come back from that one. I was getting a bit of flashing there from Tosma, maybe just trying to signal something to his rival ahead of him.
Yeah, it is just salt in the wound for Sokovikov at the moment. He is just gone from bad to worse. It's such a shame because we've lost such a good contender, but yeah, Tosma just on the back and in fact going around the outside, and well, I think that wasn't fought very hard at all. These two, between himself and Vosler, come back up the inside. Maybe Tolsma just going a little bit wide, making a mistake. But neither of these two seem to want to battle. They seem to maybe want to press on, get to the front, onto the back of the top 5 of Hammer, who's about 4 seconds in front, or maybe just wants to save some fuel and sort of slingshot off each other, playing the strategical game. And that could be what the flashing is. You know, you often see it flashing just to say, come on, let's go. We need to catch. We need to work together. The more we fight, the more time we're going to lose, and it's just going to hurt us in the long run. Yes, we're fighting for P6 now, but where's that going to be in sort of 2 hours' time? It's certainly less than ideal. And what I was saying earlier, the more you fight, you lose that slipstream to the car in front. It's then really hard to gain that time back, because we had a long train of the entire GTE grid, and now it's really spread out because of those little skirmishes that emerged, and then obviously the bit of contacts here and there. So it's now really spread out, and we've lost that train.
Yes, it's not easy as we go over the 2-hour mark remaining, or under the 2-hour mark remaining, and you can just see that the GTs they're not too slow really in the corners compared to the DPs. The DPs really seemingly gain a lot of the time just on the straights with a bit more power, and Volso they're almost getting a little bit caught up, but seemingly not too bad for now. As you see, Tolsma, they're trying to get the slipstream off him as well, but that's really sort of broken up that battle for that place, which is I think 7th in class that they're battling, or 6th in class that they're battling for there. And I have to try and resume that battle shortly, but certainly, some good battling here, all up and down the field, and I'm sure that will continue when we starting to get a bit of strategy involved as well, especially in that GTE category. There's a mixture of soft and hard tyres all around. I'm sure they're going to change that around when they get towards the pit stops as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's difficult at the moment, but only not even half an hour into this race just yet, so can't really get a handle on things so far. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 2-stop for these guys in the prototype category. I'm almost certainly sure. I'm almost wondering if it's going to be a free stop at some point. They're going to need to do about 48 minutes per stint if they want to do a 2-stop race. Is that right? It sounds about right. If they want to do this on just 2 stops, so we'll see if they can do that or not. We've just got to wait and see really. But these guys at the front of the field, Mackenberg and Kasperinka, very, very well matched indeed here at the moment. A bit of GT3 traffic starting to affect things now, and this is where the race is really going to be won and lost. It's taken us over 20 minutes to reach this point, so they're quite spread out at this stage, which is a good thing, and they've already negotiated most of them. That's second place Pacheco at the moment. They've just got through on. So thankfully, these GT3 a little bit more spread out than they were into this race, for example, where nowadays they catch up to the back of GT3 trains in real life anyway, because the DPIs are a bit faster than these that we have here today. But thankfully it's a bit of a blessing in disguise really, because everybody's a little bit more spread out than before, and these front runners can get through quite nicely. As you can see, there's been almost no incident of note really for the first run through traffic, which is rare if it was very, very close at this stage. It would be very difficult not to have incidents.
Yeah, it's the sort of worst situations where you have a difference between the fastest and slowest class that's sort of 15 or it makes sometimes more seconds a lap, and they really motor up behind. And as you say, you just got this whole line of GT cars that the prototypes need to try and get past. But fortunately, that was nice, as you say, and that has also meant that this battle has sort of just come down. The gap's come down a little bit. Kaspering there trying to get back onto the back of Mackenberg, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far. And there's obviously not loads of traffic just yet for these guys, but when they sort of start getting multiple GTs per lap, that's really when you're going to see the better drivers, when they can get through that traffic a bit quicker. And obviously if you get stuck behind someone, you can easily lose a couple of seconds, and that could be crucial if you're in a very close battle.
I think that's what's happened with Mackenberg here. He's lost that time because of catching up to the traffic. That's allowed Kaspering to just close up onto the back of him, and now he's in that slipstream range. He's got the tow hook sort of onto that rear wing and just reeling him in, because you through the banking you've got that massive draft all the way through and into the horseshoe, and then again all the way in towards turn one. So even though the gap's 6 tenths now, it's probably going to be 5-4 tenths by the time they get to turn one. So it allows him to stay right there, and then once they catch the next round of traffic, you can see just in the distance there's a few cars going through the bus stop. I think that's the back end of the GTEs. This is really going to set aside Mackenberg versus Kasperink. Is it experience in these endurance races? As the faster cars, they've got the responsibility of lapping safely. They've got to be the ones in order to get through cleanly, and the slower cars, the GTEs, they've just sort of they're just got to stick and stay predictable. That's the most important thing. But we cut to a fight. This is for P6, I think, in the GT3s. We've got Mackenberg, Rizzo and Montoro all fighting for it. This is Mackenberg having a little bit less of a success in the GT3s, but still P6. He's got Rizzo right behind him and chasing after him in the tow. We've seen those Chevrolets be so quick in the straight line. We've got Corvette versus Camaro, and I think on this particular occasion it's going to be the Camaro that comes out on top. He's just got the brute brunt down and towards turn one in order to stay ahead for now.
Yeah, it certainly does. You see the DP there coming around the outside nice and easily. But obviously the extra power, the extra top speed, but you just see here in the corners, obviously those GT3 cars can still hold their own, and might just be a little bit of contact there as you see the sort of two forms of the Corvette, one with the prototype chassis and one with the GT chassis as we come into the International Horseshoe. But to get another car coming down the inside there. PSL Montoro trying to get very opportunistic there, and they're going to go side by side on the exit, and it looks like he's not going to be able to get past just yet. Looks like I've got the sort of the C6 and the C7 type Corvette as well, so loads of different versions of the Corvette and the General Motors army here as we come through out towards the banking for another time. It looks like this battle for the mid part of the GT3s is getting close once again.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Huschlinger was having a look down the inside into into turn 6 there, which was brave, but it's really ruined his run onto the banking. Really, probably should have waited a corner and then could have got the slipstream and made the move into the bus stop, like I think Rizzo is about to do on Mackenberg just up in front. We go on board with him, but once again having trouble really using that grunt here down towards the any braking zone really. As you mentioned, multiple Corvettes and Chevrolets being on display here at the moment, but the newest of them can't get past one of the oldest ones at the moment. Right dead up in the slipstream at the moment, but not able to get anywhere. I just wonder. I was going to say, I just wonder if this is saving fuel business, but it really doesn't look like it, because he's losing time even in the acceleration zones. He's falling back even in acceleration zones. So I find it hard to believe really that it would be a fuel saving measure, but you never know, I suppose. But it just looks like it doesn't have the speed for whatever reason.
Yeah, maybe not that. Camaro's seemingly pretty good in a straight line. I know from other simulations as well it was. So I wonder if that is the same in RaceRoom here, and it's holding himself on pretty well for now. But Mackenberg, I'm surprised that he's sort of dropped down so much after the confidence Rizzo. They actually get some really good apex off the International Horseshoe, but as you see, I think the Camaro is going to be able to just hold that in that straight line as they get him on the prototypes coming up behind as well. Is he going to dive it down the inside of the West Horseshoe? It's a sort of really late apex corners. Mackenberg actually goes a bit wide, and Rizzo is going to be pretty much just gifted that position. All he had to do was just put his nose on the inside. Mackenberg making the mistake there and dropping down another place. It is that 7th place in class now for the pole sitter.
Yeah, it was just because of the late apex nature. You've just got to, come out wide, and what Rizzo did so well was just stuck his nose on the inside and said, "Well, you're going to give me the space, or we're going to crash. Either way, you've got to give me the space. You don't want to crash out from here, and neither do I." And this is Salo getting around the outside. Is this for position? Not entirely sure. I think it is. It gets it done, and very beautifully so, regardless. And I think that's him into the lead of their. No, it's not. It's into 2nd place of the GT3s at the moment. This is a 3-car train. It's Carton and then Royer, I think, making. Oh no, it's Pacheco and Carton now 2nd and 3rd. And just look at how close they are. You can see Carton pushing him through, following that gap that he's created on the inside, and that is why Pacheco's lost out here. He's pulled out of the slipstream, and that is just how powerful it is. Now Carton bump drafting Salo down and towards turn 1. Has he got the space on the inside to send it, or is he just going to tuck in Salo into 2nd? And there comes Pacheco around the outside. Beautiful bit of racing, but just gets forced off. Carton says, nah, you don't. This is my corner. This is my apex. I'm going to run you wide. And Pacheco, a very good effort, fair enough. And now Carton is on the front foot. He's second place in this train for second place. And Salo now, he's got all the pressure in the world. He's got two very quick drivers, very aggressive drivers, breathing down his neck. And this is for second place. It's no mean feat at all. And he's definitely got a massive bit of pressure on his shoulders. Just a quick note, we found out what happened to Josh Webster. He unfortunately had some irreparable damage on lap one, which unfortunately has seen him out of this race. But that is a shame because he definitely was a front runner. But we got some great action there. That is Carton getting it all sorts of sideways going out of the West Horseshoe. But yeah, great bit of racing between these three.
Yeah, these GT3 cars giving us such good action up and down the order, especially these guys towards the front. They've changed position pretty much every lap so far in the opening sort of 35 minutes of this race. And Salo now to that second place. As you say, is Carton going to be able to come back at him? He did a good move there to get past Pacheco, as Pacheco's now just dropped off the back of these guys just a little bit. Carton trying to get that slipstream towards the bus stop, just braking a little bit earlier there. Got to really get a run through this sequence of corners. It looks like just a simple sort of double chicane, but it's so difficult. You're really on the limit in the car, trying to take all the speed around the NASCAR turn 3 and turn 4 as they get one of the DPs coming around the high bank to their right hand side. Now Carton with the slipstream, is he going to be able to get there towards the inside for turn number 1? He's getting closer and closer as they come towards the start finish line, but is he going to have just enough to get the nose down the inside? He's gone wide to maybe have a bit of a switcheroo on the exit of turn number 1 towards the International Horseshoe, but I think he's just going to have to sit there for now. But Carton's certainly looking quite good. He was leading the race earlier, but all this battling has let Lapinick go, and I think for now he's just going to sit behind.
Yeah, it looks like that's the sensible choice as we see the leader. You just see the rough in the background of that shot there, getting away from these guys right now, nearly 5 seconds, and I have a feeling that this is why this has been happening all the time, whether we've been watching or not. They've just been going side by side everywhere, as these guys have since we've been looking at them. I feel like that's been happening for a while, so it's allowed Lapnick to get away from all of these guys and really stretch out that margin to over 4 seconds, nearly 5 here at this stage. So they're going to do well to really get him back at this stage. You know, often in these races you see these guys have got very similar pace, and so if you let them get away by any kind of gap, then they're going to be difficult to bring back, even once you cleared the traffic that's in your way. So, yeah, Lapinick is certainly in the driving seat at the moment, but whether he can convert or not is another issue, of course. But it's a fairly big margin. 5 seconds is going to be difficult to bring back.
Yeah, 5 seconds on pace alone. Yeah, that is going to be difficult, especially as Lapinick is on his own. So it's not like he's got anyone to battle with, to lose time. So, yeah, Salo's got some, well, and the cars behind him as well. They've all got some work to do to try and chase him down. And I'm sure they're going to give it their best effort, because obviously still an hour and 47 minutes left in the race. So still quite a lot of time, actually, for them to be able to get through. As we're seeing Meickenberg here at the lead of the race, still holding on in the prototype category. Kasperink hasn't been able to get past him. The Meickenberg there just leading pretty nice. Oh, he's going to go for a spin there. He's getting way too aggressive on the throttle there, coming out, maybe just overheating the tyres a little bit, and that was quite late through the corner actually, so quite an interesting place to spin. And just as we were thinking he had it easily, he is now dropped down into third place.
That's let Kasperink and Markovic through. That is remarkable. That's such a small error, such fine margins, as we said. It was just slightly on the power too early, and Kasperink, well, he was sat behind him for a good few laps, and well, he was certainly not complaining. He probably saw that and just said, oh, cheers, thank you very much, I'm on my way. I've now got the lead by 5.3 seconds. So Meickenberg, while he's got the pace, he's now got a massive task in order to make that up. Luckily for him, he's still got an hour and 46, and still maybe a bit of strategical play. And again, as we said earlier, the traffic could help him if it goes his well. But you know, Lady Luck doesn't always shine your way in terms of motor racing, certainly not in motor racing at all. So he's got to both be very lucky, this Meickenberg, in order to close this gap back up. But yeah, Kasperink and Markovic are going to be incredible. And we're back to this fight already between Salo, Pacheco and Carton, because Pacheco has now been the next guy to get past Carton, who just seems to be going backwards. He seems to be more of a mobile chicane, just, backing everyone up, trying to make that Alpina as wide as possible. And unfortunately for him, doesn't have the pace to stay with him. But look at Salo. Lepanic just sort of ran off with it, but Salo is absolutely charging after him at a rate of knots. That gap was 5 seconds a couple of laps ago. Now only 3.6 cap.
Yeah, this pace is weird. It's sort of changing with who is fast at a certain time, and then Pacheco got up into second place, then he dropped back, and now he's coming back again. It's quite interesting, the sort of inconsistencies with the positions, but it's great for us. We're battling almost every lap in this GT3 category, and I think that is just going to continue as it seems. These guys staying very close indeed. And as you say, Salo getting close to Lepanic at the front and really chasing down. Salo was quite far down in the order at one point as well, so he's worked his way up, and now he's going to be hopefully challenging for the lead in the not too distant future. But for now, Pacheco there getting up into that third place, going to be looking good. But Ewan, for Mackenberg in that DP, it's certainly not what you want to be doing at that stage in the race, because he's now got over 9 seconds to catch up.
Yeah, no, it does show that the tyres are certainly wearing at this stage in the race. It's starting to get to that point, and so you're going to have to start thinking, oh goodness, Carter might have to start thinking about it soon as well, as he gets a little bit wayward going on to the banking as well. But we just brought that graphic up on the left-hand side. You can see the red circles around. They'll go green once these guys have taken on 2 tyres in this race. You have to change 2 tyres at some point throughout the race. You can't do it all on one set. By the looks of the race so far, I don't think anybody really wants to not change tyres. But either way, they have to change at least 2. I don't know for sure, but it makes more sense in my brain for them to do 4 all at once anyway. But you never know. Someone might go for the 2, because obviously it does save you some time in the pit stop. So if you're only a few seconds behind and you can't quite catch up, can't quite overtake, then maybe a 2-tyre call for somebody is going to be the winning one.
As Carton gets the slipstream, has he got enough to get down the inside of turn 1? We've seen the outside is very difficult to get past the inside of turn 1 is where you want to be, but he hasn't been able to get there. But yeah, I would say depending on on how the tyres are going, you really want to change your 4, because if you change just 1 or just 2, so 1 axle or 1 side, then you've got a really big sort of imbalance there. So the car's going to be handling a bit weird. I'm sure some drivers would be used to that, would have practiced that, but I think the drivers will be trying to change 4 unless they really need to, I should say, to gain some extra time here and there. But Carton now, as we come through this infield, is getting closer. I think he's going to be able to get back past. It just depends when, because it seems the cars are different speeds at different points on the track.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the imbalance between the 2. Once again, getting a bit shaky as Carton. That Alpina looks so twitchy, so unstable, and it just looks like it's always on a knife's edge for him. It's never seemed stable, and as you say, it should in theory be better to take all 4. But maybe in theory you take the right side, because through the bankings they're the ones that are going to be feeling the brunt of it most, and they're the ones that you could probably gain most with. But overall, you're going to benefit of taking all 4 tyres for sure. And yeah, he certainly has some pace, but I think it's little mistakes like that one we just saw, a little bit too shaky through the bus stop, and that ruins his momentum onto this straight. It's all about momentum. It's all about a hop, skip, and a jump, having that exit speed to carry it through, and that's what's cost him. Because just look at the delta between them. It will grow and grow and grow, and for Carton, it's just these small inconsistencies, small little mistakes here and there. Whether that's his setup, whether that's his sort of mentality getting to him, whether that's the pressure getting to him. Either way, we don't know. And now we've got a fight. Is this for P5 in the GT3? This is Rizzo versus Royer down in towards turn 1. Has he got the space on the left-hand side? He has. He's going to try and fill it late under brakes. The Red Bull livery car is going to try and squeeze in the Corvette on the outside, and he definitely does it, but they're still side by side. Who's got the better drive off the corner? It's going to be Rizzo. Gets ahead, and that was a very remarkable move indeed. Just saw the space on the inside and said, well, I'm going to fill it if you're going to leave me. Very close into the international horseshoe. Very, very close. But yeah, Rizzo into the top 5. Very nicely done. Takes the move, and their jobs are good.
Yeah, nice move there. Royer had got himself up into a pretty nice position there, but just dropping down a little bit. And these cars really battling all the time and just seemingly that sort of Callaway Corvette C7 style Corvette just having that upper hand in the beginning part of this lap at least, and is going to be then coming out onto the banking for another time in a much better position for now. And just taking a look up and down the order, someone we haven't really mentioned since the start of the race is Ottaviani, leading the way in the GTE category now by over 8 seconds from Villacrevi there in second place. And then also Rokas to be is there in that third place. Those guys all spread out quite a lot in that GTE category, so not quite the same level of closeness, if that's even a word, between that category indeed. Here is Rokas to be in 10th place overall, third place in class, 6 seconds behind his rival. So Ewan, I just think this the GTE category just seemingly spread out a bit more than the GT3s. Yeah,
for some reason, I don't quite know why really, why that would have happened, because obviously it's all the same car in GTE. I know Daytona prototype is as well, but I feel like those cars a little bit more difficult to drive, as we've seen already with Mackenberg. You've got to be really careful with the getting on the power really, especially onto the banking and that transition there. But the GTE having the driver aids and whatever, the same cars, of course. I don't really know. I can't really explain why these guys are so spread out at this early stage in the race. However, I was kind of thinking that when I was kind of rewatching the Spa 2.4 hour from last year here at RaceRoom, and just wondering, after about this stage in the race, it was getting a bit spread out. But by the end, we were having a battle for the win that changed in the very final 5 minutes. So there's still promise left in this race. Although Alessandro Ottaviani is going to be very, very difficult to topple. He's one of the most improving drivers around at the moment. I've seen him very quick on 3 simulators now. This is the 3rd simulator I've seen him running up towards the front of a very high-class field in, and he's still getting faster, which is quite scary for everybody else.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's probably one of those drivers to look out for over the next sort of year, 2 years, to see where he can go. Really showing his dominance here in this race in particular. But as you say, it's not just on RaceRoom, it's on other simulators as well that he's really getting and making a name for himself. And I think that is something, because he's still fairly young as well, so there's certainly time for him to improve even more. And yeah, to be honest, I can't wait to see, because I remember him a couple of years ago racing. He's very fast, and but maybe not fast on the same level of consistency as he's getting now. And what have you seen, Ewan?
I've seen second place in GTE. Crevi has had some problems somewhere, because the gap all of a sudden has gone out to 17 seconds. Is still growing. Rokas to beat is closing rapidly. Oh dear, and that'll be exactly why. No front end at all on that car for the Finnish driver, so he's going to be in surely. Does he even know? He's certainly going to know in a minute, and he does, coming into the pit lane. So 2-stop strategy for him, certainly, whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah, that is not what you want to be doing. It looks like it's sort of both sides. So it looks like he's had a complete head-on crash somewhere and losing a lot of time, and that's going to put Rokas to be up into second place, and Clifford there up into third place in the GTE category as we come back to this battle in the GT3s, with Royer trying to get back past Rizzo as well, and Zach. Yeah, these sort of earlier points in the race, we're just coming up to an hour done in this race, and losing your front bumper is certainly not what you want to be doing.
No, and it is, a tale of this race. It's going to be such a race of attrition. Who can outlast the other? It's all about consistency. I said it in qualifying, you've got one or two really good laps in qualifying, but that doesn't translate into, the amount of laps we're going to need today for the race we've had so far, in the hour and 37 minutes we've still got left. It's just so... to finish first you must finish, obviously, but you've just got to be careful. You've got to minimize the mistakes as best you can, and get to the end without the damage, because now he's put himself on a slightly worse strategy, maybe the less than ideal strategy he wanted to be on, and it just again, even in the back of his mind, as good as you are of getting rid of those bad thoughts in their mind, you're only human. They're going to be there. They're going to be at the back of your mind. You're going to be thinking. You're going to be maybe a bit more cautious into the corner, or whatever it happened on. You're going to be a little bit more cautious going into there for the rest of the race. That could slow you down, or it could even promote the mistake again, which is just going to make it from bad to worse. And we've seen instances of things going from bad to worse. Just look at the people we've had fighting at the front have now sort of are either completely out of contention. You look at Sokovikov, who's now out of this race, and of course Webster. It's just gone from bad to worse for them, which is a shame. But it's racing. You've just got to push on and keep going as best you can.
On the tower, you can see Vossler and Cravey. They've now got the green symbol next to their name, so they've taken the mandatory tyres. But it's interesting that Vossler was in the pit lane at the same time, so I wonder if he was involved in some way, or if maybe that was a choice. I didn't see what happened, but I do wonder if there was maybe something happened between them. It's just what I'm trying to think might have happened as we are looking back at Carton. Still on the back of Pacheco. He hasn't let Pacheco get away, but Salo has now gone 3 and a bit seconds up the road as we're actually getting some drivers coming into the pit lane, so maybe this is the time, as Cravey actually got a speeding penalty, another drive-through penalty, just like Sokovikov did a bit earlier as well, just adding to the issues that he's having at the moment.
Yeah, it's when it rains it pours, I suppose, is the phrase there to use, because he's already having to repair that damage, and now he's going to have to come down pit lane here once more. As you say though, we're seeing the first scheduled pit stops this time for Segi Nodge, and also Markovic now, who's been in, John Hyde as well, although I don't believe he's taken on any tyres by the looks of that graphic there. At the moment. By the way, if you can get to 1 hour 30, Markovic speeding in the pit lane, I'm afraid. Contender for the race. I think he came in from second, didn't he? So that's really, really damaging for him, I'm afraid. We'll look out for where that brings him out. But if you can make it to 1:36 to go as a Daytona prototype, then you can make this on only 2 stops. As I mentioned earlier, you need to do 3 48-minute stints at the very minimum. I think Versace Nodge was a little bit early, but might be able to make that fuel up, might be able to go a lap or 2 longer a little bit later. It looks like these guys are mostly okay, as Kasperink and Mackenberg look like they've both been into the pit lane, leaving Ray out all on his own.
Yeah, and another speeding penalty there as well. It's very easy to do here because you're coming out of NASCAR 4, absolutely flat out, pretty much top speed, and then you've just got to pull to the left, and there's just this big, wide expanse of tarmac, and somewhere there's 2 cones and a white line that you've got to break. It is certainly one of the more difficult pit entries in that regard, because you've really got to just commit at some point, and obviously a couple of drivers there, I think it's about 4 or 5 drivers we've had now go over these speed limits, as we're looking now to Carton still trying to get on the back, as we see Kasperink, he's gone green with the tyres, Mackenberg as well. Hasn't changed the green yet, so maybe he hasn't changed his tyres. We'll see when he comes out of pit lane, but Carton for now in the GT3 is getting a nice run onto the back of Pacheco, and can he be close enough as we get down towards turn 1?
He's certainly having a look, and just look at that slingshot. We've seen it from the bus stop all the way down towards turn 1. The speed is just insane. He's practically pushing him through. Has he got the overspeed in order to make a move down and towards turn 1? Looks like he's just backing off, maybe working with him at this stage in the race. Both of them, I think, are yet to pit, so they don't want to lose time. They don't want to lose too much time at this stage. They're just going to try and work together, maybe. Or Carton just hasn't seen that's rather wide, and we've seen that line many a time, but not quite to that extent this race. Carton's still putting the pressure on Pacheco, but not as much as he would have liked. And Pacheco seems to be the one he's putting the most fight up against, and I think Salo and Rapanic, his charges sort of halted a little bit as well. We're around about this pit window, and at this stage, if you take tyres for your first stop, you're going to be mighty quick for that first stint, but then you're going to plateau off for the second, the third and final stint. It's really going to come down and funnel through towards the end.
And I wonder how this is going to work with the tyres as well. As you see Markovic there, he's dropped back a bit more, so I wonder if he's just taken his drive-through penalty already. He's got Hyde behind him, John Hyde there just behind him in that 11th place overall, but you see now they're back behind some of the GTEs, such as how close those categories have remained so far in the opening 50 minutes of this race. But I wonder, because they changed tyres already, sort of 1/3 into the distance, I wonder if they're going to change tyres again at the next one, or if someone's going to try a sort of double stint on the tyres. Obviously, we'll have to find out with that one. But as at the moment, Ray is out there, and Kasperink is getting a little bit closer. So actually Radar has come into the pit lane this lap. That's why the gap's come down. So Kasperink there assuming the lead of the race, as we have someone spinning there, Amazonis on the exit of the corner, coming out onto the banking, and he's been Ewan, he's been struggling on the brakes all day, hasn't he?
He has indeed, and that one, to be fair, looked like it was on the throttle there, so well, not sure what happened to him, but yeah, spin around, and he's back going again. Fortunately, is Markovic just pulling wide through the banking there, not entirely sure why, but trying to give himself that extra little bit of speed going down towards turn one. But yeah, look at Ottaviani in this race at the moment, third overall, and he might only be making one stop in this race. We'll have to wait and see whether he makes it to 1 hour 12 to go. If you can make it to 1 hour 12 to go, or even later as a GT car, then you will be able to make this race on one stop. And goodness knows where Ottaviani's going to end up if indeed he does do only one stop in this race, because he's absolutely flying out there at the moment. He's got what is that, over 20 seconds over to Clifford, who's in second place in GTE after his closest rival Creevy went for that accident, of course. And this gap is just continuing and continuing to extend, doesn't show any signs of slowing down. And yeah, we really could be in for an astonishing result for this Porsche.
And the longer we go, obviously, the longer we question whether there's going to be anyone trying a one-stop. They have to obviously save a decent amount of fuel, 144 minutes, is it? I believe the race is. So obviously quite a long way to go on one tank. Over 70 minutes on the tank, but I wonder if someone will try it, but no, it doesn't look like he's going to do so. Ottaviani coming into the pit lane, don't get a speeding penalty, because that will ruin, it looks like he's slowed down plenty of time, because there's no reason for him to be risking that. It's got such a nice lead, and as he comes in down the pit lane at 60 k's an hour, he's going to be, I'm assuming, taking his mandatory tyres as well.
Yeah, I mean, for him, for Ottaviani, it is just a nice Saturday drive to bring it home. I mean, he's got the gap behind. He's just sort of cruising, and that's the thing. He doesn't want to get complacent. He's still got to do the job at hand. He's still got to drive the laps consistently, but he's not got that that pressure of someone chasing after him. He's not got someone to chase after either. He can just sort of take a chill pill, not take his foot off the gas by any means, and still push for it. But just in the back of your mind, it's more of a relaxing drive, and that's definitely going to help him stay more consistent, knowing he's got the gap. And if he makes a couple of mistakes, that's fine. But yeah, he's certainly not on the limit like the B here, who was absolutely four-wheel sliding it through the International Horseshoe on his bid to try and get himself inside the top 5. But yeah, we've certainly had a good race so far. This is karting still on the back of Pacheco. Neither of them have come into the pit lane just yet. They're really extending this first stint quite a while, quite a long time compared to most people. And you can see Carson trying to tuck into the slipstream, trying to get that drive, but they've got some of the prototypes coming after him. They just go to the wide line, and just look at the difference in speed between them. They just absolutely sail past him. But for Carton, just can't quite make the indent onto Pacheco he needs. But luckily, he's still there. He's still in the tow, and that's going to be helping his fuel situation. So he might have a shorter pit stop than Pacheco come his pit stop.
And that is going to be a good, important point when we get to the final part. If we do see a two-stop, the driver's going even further now, obviously then going to be making a shorter third stint after their second pit stop, and therefore might not need to take a full tank of fuel then, and obviously the less fuel you have to take, the less time you'll be stopped in the pit lane. As we're seeing Carton here getting a really good run with the slipstream. Is he finally going to be able to get past, or is he actually just choosing to sit behind for now? I think he might just be choosing there, because he was getting a really good run and just managed to back out of that one. And looking at someone else is coming out of the pit lanes. It's Williams coming out. He hasn't taken his tyres. Ottaviani, though, he has in the net lead of that race. But back up at the prototypes, Barrera hasn't taken his tyres after his first stop. So he's maybe gained a little bit of time there, but he's going to be a lot slow on this stint. And for Seguinage, he's going to be just right behind him as well.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult for the Hungarian really to get through here because of the tyre difference, as you say, but he's got to watch out later on for Barrera flying, presumably on those newer tyres a little bit later. Yeah, this race has ended up dividing itself quite nicely, really, for these Daytona prototypes. It's almost split naturally into thirds for them in this one, so it does make things easy, but it's also a case of when do you take tyres, as you mentioned, and Barrera seems that he hasn't done that so far. None of the GT3s have, or most of them haven't anyway, because of The fact they've not been in yet, trying to see in the GTEs really who has and hasn't, but we'll get a better read on that when they all come in, because I feel like the ones who have been in so far, like Ottaviani, you can see on the screen right now, obviously short pitting a little bit, making that first stint a little bit shorter than it might have needed to be, because accepting his fate in terms of not being able to do the one-stop strategy, which seems to be very difficult. So he's just accepted the reality really of that one, and just gone for the two-stop, tried to optimise that as much as possible, and clearly that means by changing tyres at this point, and then doing the rest of the hour and a half of this race on this set of tyres, which he should be taking to the end presumably. And judging by the way this race has gone so far, he might well be taking to the victory as well, because he's only a second off the lead, and he's made a pit stop already. Oh, Clifford off.
Yeah, Clifford there, I don't know if that's just the time, is he off, or is that just the timing updating from a pit stop, I think? Actually, no, maybe, yeah, he was off. And that has made Ottaviani's life a lot easier for sure. And I think that Ottaviani is going to sort of be reassuming his dominance here in the GTE category. But I wonder, Clifford's has he made his pit stop? Because if he has, then obviously he hasn't taken tyres. Maybe that's how he got ahead, because we've had a shorter pit stop, but I'm sure we'll find out if he did or did not. But yeah, Ottaviani reassuming the lead, and I think he's probably just going to pull off in the distance like he did before, because he seems to be the class of the field for now.
Yeah, he's just a step above everyone else, isn't he? He's just absolutely maximised everything he's had to do, and the fact he's a pit stop ahead, just shy of an hour into this race, and he's already a pit stop ahead. It is his race to lose, and we said going into qualifying, even before qualifying, he was going to be one to look out for, and he's just been so dominant, so good, and never say never. Anything can happen between now and the checkered flag. We've still got an hour and 24 left to go, but if it's the same trend and he's keeping this up, certainly is going to be the favourite to win. And once again, we're back watching Carton and Pacheco for P3 in their respective class. Both of them are yet to pit, but just look at that Alpina closing on the Chevrolet in towards turn one. He's got the slipstream, but again, one of them comes into the pit lane. He wasn't expecting that at all. Carton had to sort of just dart out the way when Pacheco come in, so he's going to go for an extra lap, whereas Pacheco is coming in a lap earlier. Could this be Carton's sort of long game strategy, in that these one lap later adds up towards the end of the race?
Yeah, so we pretty much at an hour exactly of the race, so pretty good distance indeed for these GT3 categories compared to the other categories, the GTE and the prototypes. So I think we're going to be seeing a few of these GT3s come into the pit lane. As you see, the order's sort of all working itself now. The lighter blue colours in the tower are your GT3s, and the green colour is your GTEs, so they will be sort of realigning themselves in the order now that the GT3s have starting to make their pit stops at least. But how many more laps is Carton going to do? Because as Zach was mentioning, this could be quite a good strategic opportunity, because obviously the further he goes, the less fuel he will have to take to the end. But Ewan, I think obviously the strategic options are still going to be quite wide open with an hour and 23 still to go.
Yeah, that's what I do like about this race, actually. 2 hours 24 is quite a nice distance, actually, especially in the GT categories. We've mentioned already that the Daytona prototypes have kind of had this race split into thirds for them, even though there is still a bit of a tyre game going on, as we're seeing on our screen right now. But in GT, it really means that you do have to make two stops, but there's a lot of flexibility in there, an awful lot of flexibility, and that makes things very, very interesting for us with regards to who's taking tyres and who's not. And it's quite difficult to get a handle on who is and who's not really, and remember who's pitted and who hasn't here at this stage in the race. For example, in the front of GT at the moment, we know Ottaviani has, but Clifford and Tosma haven't changed any tyres just yet. Neither has Williams for the time being, and we're seeing still a few GT3s left to pit at the moment. So it's very difficult to work out, and indeed the fuel in GT as well is very flexible, because you've got basically a short stop left over really, as opposed to full stops like in the Daytona prototypes. Once again, means there's a lot of flexibility in there, so it all kind of unravels in the final half an hour of the race.
Yeah, it certainly does, and someone, if they can get a shorter pit stop, could be quite good. But as you say, this is quite a nice distance, because a lot of races that we do are maybe, say, a 2-hour race, a 4-hour race, 6 hours. It's a like a hard hour number, but this is 2 hours and 24 minutes. It's very precise, very exact, and something just a bit different, and always adds a bit of spice into the strategic options, because especially in the GT3s, you see they've done roughly an hour on a tank. So if you had a 6-hour race, we'd split that up into 6 1-hour stints effectively, and it would be pretty regulated. Whereas if it was 5 hours and 46 minutes, it would just add something a little bit different in that regard, which is obviously the format we have here with the 2.4 hours of Daytona, and still obviously a pit stop to go for pretty much all of the cars. So still strategic options for those drivers trying to work their way into a good position. But in a good position already at the GTE category is Ottaviani, because he's already almost 5 seconds up the road from Clifford, who just got past Tolsma as we saw on the previous lap. But not too far behind them is Carton as well, who is still out there in the GT3s, although I think he might just be coming in now as he drops down the order.
Yeah, well, Ottaviani, he's 5 seconds in front of Clifford, but don't forget that's also with a pit stop on top of that as well. So yeah, he's just been. We can say it for the entire broadcast if we want. Ottaviani has just been the absolute class. And I really hope we're not going to chew our words later on, because he's entirely deserving of the success he's brought. And as you said earlier, definitely look out for him in the future in terms of success. He's one to watch for sure. But it's not to take anything away from anyone else. The likes of Clifford and Tolsma, because they've also been driving very well. Remember, these guys are the top guys on RaceRoom. They are, this is top split stuff, and it's just Ottaviani that's the step above that, and been really, really impressive. And yeah, it's great. But I think Mackenberg is, well, if my eyes are reading me right, he's 1.3 off Kaspering, and he's really brought that that gap down, if that is legitimately bringing the gap down. They're both taking their tyres, they're both coming to the pit lane, and Mackenberg is absolutely flying, it seems, after that previous spin. So he's really recomposed himself very well, and is on an absolute charge. He's not given up at all, and that's really respectable, because he's certainly one of the favourites to win. It's between him, Kaspering, and well, probably just them two actually, because there seems to be no one else really in contention.
Yeah, it was really Markovic who was challenging them, but he is quite a way down in 30th position. I'm not sure if he's out of the race. He might be out of the race as we speak, which is not ideal. Yeah, he's actually looking at live time. It's greyed out. So I believe Markovic is out of the race. So it looks like Kaspering and Mackenberg. But Mackenberg, he was about 10 seconds off the lead or so after he had his spin. So Ewan, I think he's done a really good job to get there. But do you think that Kaspering can hold on to this, or has Mackenberg just got the speed at the moment?
Well, he has at the moment, but there's always the thing hanging in the back of your mind, and it will be for Mackenberg as well, is that, that through that corner going onto the banking, that mistake will always be in his mind, unless he's very mentally strong indeed, and he's just pushed it away to the back of his mind entirely. I think it will be lingering there, and the possibility of a mistake will certainly be keeping Kaspering going in this one. I think it's going to be a tight fight between them, let's be honest, because before the spin, Mackenberg and Kaspering were very, very well matched, and I don't really expect that to change afterwards. I just can't wait to see what strategic games they're going to play at the final pit stop. Are they both going to take tyres or not in this final part of the race? I mean, but to my eyes, Mackenberg was already struggling with them towards the end of the first stint. Surely he can't go double that on this set of tyres unless he's looked after them very well. And, he's been roaring towards Kaspering in the last few hours. So I can't imagine he's been doing very much saving, really. So, I think it's going to be definitely tyres for Mackenberg. But are one of these guys going to take a risk? Are they going to take a gamble to try and win this race? Because they might believe it's their only chance, really, since they're so well matched.
Yeah, it might be, but the new tyres, I think, are going to just have that bit of too much of an edge, really, because especially if they're doing sort of 45, 50-minute stints, it's a long time to be on those older tyres. As we're getting a really close battle here, Tolsman's caught back up to Clifford and really bump drafting him coming towards turn number 1. So maybe just a bit of fuel saving going on there. But I do think for the DPs, I think they might be changing tyres again, just going full push towards the end of this 2.4 hours of Daytona, and it looks like the GTE's starting to battle once again.
Yeah, this is probably, I think it is just a fight for second between these two. Tolsma versus Clifford, the two of them are very equally matched on pace, and you can see Tolsma just absolutely driven up onto the back of Clifford. It's going to be a great fight between the two. I really do hope so, because yeah, they're going to be fighting over second and third. I mean, they're both on the podium. They've both got that milestone. You know, you can always talk about it. You always want the top 10. Well, a top 10 in fields, you know, that are split up like this probably isn't that impressive, but you know, then you aim for the top 5, then the top 3, then the win. But yeah, it's third or second. You're both on the podium for the Daytona 2.4, but as a racing driver, you're always going to want that step above. You're always going to want to get that extra position, and Tosma definitely going to be looking for it, whether he does it on the road, whether he does it in the pit lane. Either way, he's going to be absolutely gunning for it as best he can. But yeah, no, I don't think either of these guys have pit yet, or they haven't taken tyres at the very least. Because Ottaviani has taken his, and he's definitely coming to the pit lane. So yeah, these two I think are yet to pit, but they're very evenly matched. Both of them going to give us some great action, and Tosma has actually got an incredible drive off the bus stop, looking already to the inside of NASCAR 3 and 4, and you can see Clifford is just hung up on the outside. He's taken that very wide line. It's really not ideal. He's just waiting and waiting for the opportunity to tuck back in, and he's going to get the slipstream. Is he going to launch a counter attack already back into turn 1? You can see as soon as he's in, he's hooked, and he's absolutely flying, looking for that inside gap. And as the prototype laps them, he's looking for the inside, waiting for Tosma to open it up for him. Has he got the space? He's going to look, but again, just has to back off because turn 1 approaches him a little bit too quickly, and Tosma taking a very nice opportunistic move through and goes a little bit wide through turn 1. Has Clifford then got the drive in towards the International Horseshoe, the fight for second and third, but just didn't quite get the drive off, and Tosma, thankfully for him, counting his lucky stars that he managed to keep the P2 he's been fighting so hard for.
Yeah, really nice battle between these guys. However, these guys, last lap, 2 seconds slower than Ottaviani. So I know there's also a bit of battling going on here, but Ottaviani's really romping off in the distance. And looking at how it's worked out, I think we just missed their pit stops. I do think they pit, but I think Ottaviani dropped behind because he changed the tyres, but he's already made up the big gap, just showing you how good the newer tyres can be. And I think these guys, they'll obviously have to come in to do their mandatory tyres at some point, but I think Ottaviani is just going to be so far off anyway, and he's probably going to take new tyres again and already have the track position that he's gaining now. So good strategy from Ottaviani, the Italian, once again. And these guys are still going to have a really good battle between themselves for this second position, and Tosma at the moment is coming out on top of that.
Yeah, I think this is Hyde, by the way, who's struggling to get through on these guys. I said it earlier on that the Daytona prototypes are really going to struggle to get through on the infield because they're not great through the corners, especially compared to these GTEs. It's really where they get onto the banking and they can use their speed, although their top speed is not too much faster than the Porsches either. So it is quite a difficult day for them. Hyde's finally able to get through, but he has lost a couple of seconds to Barrera in doing that. But what I was going to say is that interesting developments here in GT3 in the last few moments, because we still have a man out there. We've got Michael Mackenberg in the I don't know if he's any relation to Sven Mackenberg in the Daytona prototypes, but you never know. He's still leading here in the Camaro. He's about to get dived here, or nearly got dived into turn 1. He's got a minute's lead, and obviously no tyre change next to his name. He's not just not done tyres, he's not done a pit stop at all. He's the only guy in the field attempting to do a one-stop in this race. And by the way, he's searching for that slipstream, clambering for the slipstream, as you saw there. He is clearly saving every drop of fuel that he possibly can. We're very, very close to the halfway mark, 90 seconds away. If he can do this one more lap, then he's going to do this. He's going to be able to do this on one stop. Can those guys make up the minutes margin that they need to in the rest of this race? Well, this has just thrown the cat amongst the pigeons entirely, because all of a sudden we've got a gambler further down the field, and so far looks like it might well pay off, but there's a long way to go.
And this explains why he was so slow in the first part of the race, why he was just losing so many positions after that brilliant pole position that he took an hour and a half ago now. But it really was almost a disappointing pace, but because he wasn't sort of majorly slow. He was just consistently, slowly but surely, losing a bit of time here and there, and that sort of makes a bit of sense if he is going to do it. And as you say, 2 hours 24 minutes for the race, and we're almost coming up to 1 hour 12 minutes, which is halfway. So yeah, end of this lap. And obviously, it will take a minute or so to do the pit stop as well. So that's going to push him past the halfway point even more. So hopefully he's not that tight, because if there is an extra lap, depending on where he is when the race timer finishes, Hopefully he's got enough fuel to do that. But yeah, this is a great job indeed, because he has got a pretty big gap to the cars behind. And if excuse me, if the cars behind all need to take the extra pit stop, then they're going to lose a lot anyway.
Well, this is just very interesting from Mackenberg. He's really, really showing his skill here and the ability to be so patient, because as a driver, it's so tempting to just send a move or punch it a little bit too early because, you know, he's got on the pole position. He doesn't. It's so disheartening to see all those guys fly past you, but he's kept the mental game. He's kept strong, and he knows that what's going on. His gut feeling is that this is going to work, and so far it is. And, you know, it's just so... it's just such a patient game. He's saving the fuel, saving the tyres as best he can, and he's still going an extra lap beyond the halfway mark. So just having that security in case there is an extra lap later on and he hasn't quite timed it right, he's building that security for himself. And yeah, honestly, we don't know how this is going to pan out. Obviously, he's going to be a lot slower than Lepinek and Pacheco behind him for second and third. But at the same time, he's built that margin. He's saving himself a pit stop, and that's all you need in endurance racing, is to minimise the time you're spending in the pit lane.
And the I guess the important factor for this is it's not like they've caught him back up, so he hasn't lost that extra pit stop time. So I think he might be okay with this. It just depends exactly what his pace is going to be like. And obviously, the longer he goes now, the less he will have to save as well in the second half of the race. So yeah, definitely a very good strategy. I'm glad to see that someone has tried the one-stop strategy, because it's always good to see someone do something a little bit different, because Lepinek has had it a little bit easy the last sort of half hour or so, leading the way there in the GT3 category with Pacheco some 4 seconds or so behind. Carton's still behind him as well, actually, so Carton's still not able to get back up. Salo has dropped off the back of that GT3 field, but up the front in this Daytona prototype P2 field, Mackenberg is still not able to catch up to Kasperink. We did think he was going to be able to close down, but Ewan, for the time being, he's just sitting there about 2 seconds behind.
Yeah, he is. It's just sitting at that margin as we go back to GT3, the battle for third. This is who will become the battle for second soon when Mackenberg eventually pits. Yeah, these two have been pretty glued together so far, Pacheco and also Carton. Salo was involved as well, but is a little bit further back at this stage. And I think that might be British just behind here, actually getting through for an overall position in the GTE category, although it's hard to tell because they're all Porsches obviously in GTE, and that just make life a little bit difficult, although it's not. It's just somebody coming through to lap these guys, but yeah, sorry, it's just a bit of lag. Yeah, the GT3s have been very, very close together throughout all of the race so far. Just very sceptical about whether they can actually catch Mackenberg. He has now come in, but he had a minute's advantage there. I don't really believe that he's going to lose a minute, saving fuel in the next pit stop. However, I guess these pit stops for these guys at the front of the field won't be as long next time, because they're only taking a very small amount of fuel in that final stop. So maybe it will change again. But yeah, I mean, he's looking in a fairly comfortable place.
Yeah, so this gap is going to be quite important. How far, or like how close is he, and then how far behind are these cars going to be when they come in for their second pit stop? However, we're not going to find that out for another 20-30 minutes or so at least before they come in. So Mackenberg's got a long time to wait before he finds out his fate with the strategic gods, and he's going to be jumping down the order, as you can see, and obviously then trying to work his way back out into the line to see where he's going to come out. He's dropped down there to 5th place in class, 21st overall, only just coming out the pit lane now, so he's going to be quite far behind Lepinek. So as long as this is not, by the time that Lepinek comes into the pit lane, as long as it's not more than maybe 40 seconds or so, he's probably got a chance of keeping that place. But for sure, it's going to be an interesting battle between this. Is it going to be the hare or the tortoise that wins this race?
Yeah, that's very true. Mackenberg is just sort of sailing it round, trying his best to minimise the time in the pit lane, which, is definitely going to work to his advantage towards the end, perhaps, even if it's, not the win. But, Lepinek and Pacheco are both very close in their own right. So, chances are if he loses the win, he's going to lose second place as well. But yeah, as you say, it's going to be very fine margins. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all sort of funnels its way back in towards the end of the race as well between the two strategies. Is Lepenik going to just absolutely charge after him? Is Mackenberg going to even have the track position to start off with? He needs to maximise this second stint, his second final stint, to the best of his abilities until Lepenik and Pacheco both come into the pit lane. And don't forget Carton as well. He's only 1 second behind and still in the mix. So yeah, it's going to be close between all four of them, and one of them is on a very different strategy. This is what I love about endurance racing. You can have two different strategies, two completely opposing strategies that that have a 2-stop versus a 1-stop completely nursing the tires is to absolutely throw them around the track, and yet they still make us unsure as to who's going to come out on top. And it is just absolutely wonderful. And this is Rover on the back of Royer, on the back of Norway. It's going to be the outside line. Has he got the slingshot in order to commit to it? This is the run towards turn number 1. He's got the straight line speed. We've seen that slingshot down in towards turn 1, and the Audi just has to tuck in behind because, look at Johan. He's just got that straight line speed, and we've seen it before, and he just absolutely sailed past him into P5.
Yeah, that's the older style. I think it's the C6R Corvette there. It seems to be very fast so far. We've seen that car from another driver as well, going really fast in the straight lines and the speed traps and making that overtake work. And moving up into 5th place with a Neubauer there, dropping down, but only 5-6 seconds behind these guys is Mackenberg. So Mackenberg is definitely going to be able to effectively get past those cars. It just depends, does he have enough? Because ahead of Salo, there's quite a long gap to the top 3 with Carton, Pacheco and Lepenik. So it just depends where roughly they're going to drop back out in relation to Marvin Mackenberg here. But I think Mackenberg is going to be able to hold on to those guys ahead of him, but is he going to be able to challenge for the win? We've still got an hour and 5 minutes to find out, but certainly a very interesting prospect of what's to come.
I think a lot of what you just said there depends on how much fuel these guys are going to end up taking towards the end of this race. I presume that they're going to run these tanks dry and then fill up for as many laps as they need during the remainder of this race. That would be the sensible way to do it, to keep the lightest car as possible for the most amount of time in remaining in the race. It just really depends on how far they can go. They started coming in about an hour and a half, with about an hour and a half to go, so maybe with about half an hour to go we might see them in, maybe a little bit longer than that. So it's all going to come down to that really, in my opinion, because we could see not very much fuel in at all, and that might save them a lot. But a minute when that Mackenberg still had, that was quite a big margin. So it's going to be difficult to really catch that back, even with the taking less fuel. I did see there, by the way, Williams. We recently saw Chris Williams in the GTE category. Looked like he had quite a crumpled front end. Not entirely sure where he picked that up, but clearly he's had a bit of a problem somewhere, because there's a lot going on at the front of that car there.
Yeah, he's certainly ruined the paintwork a little bit on the front of that Porsche GTE, as he gets one of the prototypes coming past him, and that's definitely going to hinder his top speed a little bit, I would assume. Is it going to be enough for him to have to make a random pit stop now? Because that would be a little bit awkward for the strategy if he has to do that, effectively making an extra pit stop, doing a 3-stop race, or if he can hold on to that until he can go far enough to easily make it to the end of the race on a tank. We'll have to find out how that one works out. It doesn't look too bad as compared to some other cars, but certainly not going to be helping him in his quest for a better position, because he is a little bit far away, but if things go his way, he might have still been in contention for a podium today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's these little things that add up. That damage for Williams is going to take a little bit of a toll each lap that passes by, but is it worth repairing, or is it worth coming into the pit lane for? But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Another point is Mackenberg and Kasperink have really matched each other this second stint. Mackenberg was as far as 2 seconds back, and we really thought that after that absolutely surging charge towards the front that he was going to just absolutely drive onto the back of Kasperink and go, but he sort of stalemated at this point around about 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds, sort of that region, and it's just fluctuating between it. So Mackenberg, as good as he is, it seems like Kasperink in this middle stint has got the the advantage, the higher ground essentially in this race, and it's definitely going to be a battle between the two, whether that be on attrition or just sheer pace. As we've got Rizzo trying to go for a move on Manuel. Once again, it's Chevrolet on Chevrolet. And he's looking to the left-hand side and towards turn 1. This is the fight for P9. He's definitely got the gap, and he's going to commit that car. A very wide Corvette goes a little bit too deep for turn number 1. So Manuel is going to say thank you very much, does the old under and over, and he's going to fight him all the way in towards the International Horseshoe. Who's got the better drive? Who's got the inside line? Is Rizzo going to be late enough on the brakes? Is Manuel going to give him the space? Very close between the two. Manuel still keeping it to the left-hand side. It's still the long way around. Quickly becomes the inside for the King, but Rizzo just claims the corner and it stays in front, gets himself into 9th place. Manuel going to try and come back at him. He certainly doesn't want to give this place up easily in towards the Western Horseshoe, and unfortunately it's just going to have to back out of this one. So Rizzo, yeah, he seems to be the overtaker of the day. It's just a bit of a shame that he hasn't quite got the sheer pace in order to fight at the front, but giving us some good action for sure.
Yeah, he's had some nice battles up and down the field, unfortunately dropping back a bit at points in this race, back down to 27th place overall. Is not going to be where he wanted to be doing this race, as we're just a lap away from 1 hour to go in this 2.4 hours of Daytona here from RaceRoom 2022. And let's jump to John Hyde up there in 6th place, not only in class but also overall, being in the prototype category. He is some sort of seconds off the big places, but he's only less than a second behind his rival ahead of him with Barrera. But interesting for Barrera, he needs to make the mandatory tyre pit stop, which means he's going to be a lot quicker in the third part of the race, in the final stint. But if everyone else takes tyres as well, then maybe he's just losing time right now. We're going to have to see if these prototypes double stint towards the end. As John Hyde then goes to the outside, is he going to be able to have enough slipstream to get all the way around the outside, which I think he is, as Barrera is actually staying on the apron there. That's an interesting technique, but John Hyde going around the outside there quite comfortably up into 5th place.
Yeah, should have been a very easy move as well, really, due to the old tyres. Barrera's really going to be struggling with those, and he's going to be able to take them off in about 12 minutes time, so he's going to be very glad about that. Well, he's going to have to change at least 2 of those tyres. It just depends whether he can make up that amount of time, because Hyde might take tyres as well, in which case Barrera really is stuck, I would imagine, unless he can find that extra little bit of pace to get himself back into the top 5. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, really, and it will be quite hard to tell. But I'm especially interested to see what the leaders decide to do. There's only 1 second between them. One changing of or not changing of tyres could really change the race here in the next 10 minutes or so. Even if someone takes 2 and someone else decides to take all 4, or what goes on there, it could really change this race. So we'll wait and see if they're both doing the same. It's going to be quite difficult for us to tell what they've done, but we'll know if they've done the same thing or not, certainly.
Yes, it's really the difference, because to us it doesn't really matter what they do specifically. It's just the difference between each other and where they end up on the track is what's going to be the quite important factor. For instance, like Mackenberg in the GT3s, obviously doing something quite a bit different. It just depends really where he's going to come out in relation to the cars all around him. We're still obviously yet to find out how that is going to work. But also, in the other categories as well with the mandatory tyres, because we still have some 5 drivers still out on the track needing to make their mandatory tyre stops, and interestingly in all 3 categories as well. So people trying something different, which is what we like to see. So yeah, they're going to have to do that as we've entered into the final hour here. So it's the point of the race where drivers really need to start looking at their consistency. And certainly Eichenberg here in the prototype is consistently catching up Kasparink and getting a little bit closer. But is he going to be able to overtake this time?
It's bit by bit, little by little for Mackenberg in order to close back onto Kasparink. Of course, didn't help himself with that spin just before the first round of pit stops. That wasn't going to help him at all. But now he's got this final hour, that final push, and he sees the timer ticking down 10 minutes. You look at it, 10 minutes at a time, you're like, okay, 60 minutes left to go, 50, 40, 30, and it's just ticking down, getting each 10-minute interval out of the way. And of course, he's still got one more pit stop left to worry about. And it definitely is going to be a case, as Ewan said, of who is going to take tyres in this final stop, who is going to bite the bullet and maybe try and be a little bit quicker towards the end. Who knows? But Mackenberg now under a second, just about fluctuating, teetering on the edge of being under a second, and getting a little bit closer to that slipstream range. And that will just be that toe hook. He'll just latch onto the back of Kaspering, start to reel him in, and then it should be a straight fight between the two. But it is nice to see that both Mackenbergs, both brothers, even in completely opposite sides of the grids, one's in the top top division, the other's in the bottom. No discredit to the GT3s at all. Anyone who wins in that category deserves to do so. But yeah, one of them has had a spin, the other's on a completely alternate strategy, and both of them still trying to fight their way towards the front. It's great to see. And now Mackenberg, I think, has solidified himself under a second. So Kaspering, at this point, I think now is going to start to worry. His palms are going to be a little bit more sweaty for this final hour.
Yeah, certainly. It's getting very close here as we come through the bus stop for another time. But something that isn't quite as close, so just bring your attention that Ottaviani now has a 26-second gap to Tolsma. So he, on those fresher tyres between the two cars behind him, is really pulling off into the distance. And I think is going to have enough time in hand, probably just to take tyres again as the cars behind him will just comfortably take a nice easy run to the end. But Mackenberg once again is getting closer, just losing a couple of tenths here and there in the second half of that lap, but closing in again as we get towards the infield once again. And Ewan, this battle has been going on. It's sort of been a battle without them actually battling as such, just a battle of the timing sheets. And at the moment, Kaspering is really holding on there in first place.
Yeah, still very high intensity for the both of them as we look backwards from the leader at the moment. It's just churning out these lap times, lap after lap, and can't afford to make a mistake. We've already seen Mackenberg make one. He's had to really put some pace in to try and rectify that, and he just about has done at this stage. It's just a case of whether he can pick up the pace just enough to be able to overtake at this point, because it is fairly difficult. You need to get into that slipstream range, and it seems that Kaspering is just keeping him arm's distance at the moment, really, not letting him get into that slipstream range to have a go into turn number one, which is where the move would likely happen. So he's doing a good job for the moment, but all it takes is one mistake, of course, and this is going to be absolutely on. And indeed, in the next 10 minutes or so, what's going to happen during the pit stop phase, also very important as we go back to Carton, who's still trying to get through on Pacheco. And indeed, we've got Mackenberg a little bit further down in Michael Mackenberg, that is, a little bit further down in this category. He'll be in some battles fairly soon, you'd imagine, as well.
Yeah, these battles are still going on in this GT3 category, an hour and a half into this race, and Carton, though, still is just unable to get past Pacheco there. He's been behind him for quite a while now, actually. He's just dropped off on this lap during Sector 2. But yeah, he's been behind Pacheco for quite a while, and they're still just 4 seconds behind Lapinick. So Lapinick hasn't just pulled off in the distance. He got the gap to about 4 seconds, probably about maybe even up to like an hour ago now that he's been in the lead. And it's just stayed at around sort of 4 or 5 seconds the whole time. So just doing some consistent laps out the front, and the guys behind are really chasing him down. But yeah, Carton there in that Alpina, just still sitting there in third place.
Yeah, similar to Mackenberg in the DPs, that he's clearly got the pace, but it's just that stalemate. He can't close the gap. He's just sort of stuck in a sense, and it's sort of been the theme for his race that he's got pace and he's definitely got a racer's attitude in order to keep those positions, but again, just can't quite get onto the back of Pacheco. But with Mackenberg in the mix, he's P3 at the moment, but he's going to want that security. If Mackenberg pulls an absolute madness, as you see Pacheco going quite right, he's going to allow Carton to close the gap, and indeed does, down to just 0.5 of a second, open up to 6th because of Pacheco's exit, but still allows Carton little things like that in order to close the gap. And of course, the fast cars lapping them could slow them down equally as much. But yeah, Mackenberg is could be one to watch out for if he does get himself the race win or a podium. That's going to knock Carton off. So he wants to get through on Pacheco in order to secure that P3 for him.
Yeah, it's getting very close indeed, but it's just at that point where they haven't been able to get side by side just for a few laps now, but they have been battling this whole time, and they will be focusing on each other. They've been pushing a little bit, and obviously getting the adrenaline going as you can during these ranked matches and races that we get here on RaceRoom. And Carton is once again just closing in the tiniest bit, but it's just difficult to consistently keep that closing down. I do think there is a bit of a discrepancy in the sorts of the cars as to where they are faster. We have seen that C6 that Pacheco's in being really fast in the straight lines, and that is probably helping him hold on just a little bit. As we jump back to Mackenberg here, second place, getting close once again, this time within a second of Kaspering. And I wonder, Ewan, if this is finally going to be the time that he can catch up and get the lead.
Well, you'd hope so. He's been there for a while, but I don't know if he really wants to or needs to make a move at this stage. If I was him, since we're so close to the pit stop window anyway, I would just wait. Just wait a little bit longer. Make sure, get that pit stop out of the way, and then go for it after that, because you never know, you might find yourself in the lead and you might not have to make an on-track overtake in the end anyway. Or you can finally get all that out of the way, so it's just you versus your opponent right till the end, and there's nothing else to kind of get in the way of either. So I think either way, it's a good solution to just wait that little bit and maybe even save a little bit of fuel, although it won't matter too much at this stage. And then really fight it out after the pit stops. But given what we've seen so far in this race, I find that kind of unlikely.
Yeah, it's been a good race so far in the opening hour and a half here at Daytona, and the battle for the lead is still going on, which is what we like to see. Unfortunately, Sebastian Ray has dropped off a little bit, now 34 seconds, and Veseginaj also as well just dropped off a little bit. It's really turned into this two-way battle at the front, but they're giving us a really hard-fought battle here, pushing each other all the way. When one gains a few tenths, the other then gains a few tenths, and just been pushing themselves all the way towards this midpoint in the race. But as Ewan was saying, we've got the pit stops coming up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're just going to take fuel and tyres and push towards the end as well. These two drivers are on the soft compound tyres, whereas the two cars behind Sebastian Ray and Zeginaj are on the mediums. So there's definitely maybe a few tenths here and there between the tyres, but these guys just full push on these soft. And Zach really giving some good racing, good entertainment at the front.
Yeah, both of them really getting the best out of each other. Mackenberg has had to absolutely find something deep within him in order to close that gap. Kaspering has had to find something deep within him in order to maintain that lead. He's had an absolute world of pressure on his shoulders, was gifted the race lead. He's kept it since and hasn't really looked back, but now he's got to, because look at Mackenberg. He's now established himself inside this slipstream range, and it's just going to allow him to close. And we've seen the absolute slingshot that people get from the bus stop all the way towards turn one. 5 tenths is a pretty big gap. It's a couple of car lengths at least, but around this pit stop window, does Mackenberg want to be the proactive one? Is he instead going to sit behind and be the reactive one to whatever Kaspering does? Is he going to say, whatever he does, I do? Am I going to do the opposite of what he does? If he comes in, I stay out. If he stays out, I come in. What sort of those kind of things? But yeah, or are they just going to match each other? Are they just going to come in at the same time, take fuel and tyres, and just have an absolute straight fight? Because they haven't got any competition whatsoever. It's a 2-horse race between these two absolute, I guess you could say, tyrants of this category so far. They've absolutely dominated it. Even in qualifying, they were the front runners, the ones to beat. And you can just see Mackenberg absolutely pushing the limit of that car in order to catch up. And now he's got a decent view of that rear end of Kaspering. He's going to want to get after it, get alongside it, get past it, and at least try and get himself back in the race lead that he feels he's going to be deserving before the spin. And just look at how close he is off the Western Horseshoe, and he's going to be just gunning for it in towards the bus stop.
Yeah, this is the closest he's been in quite a while to the race lead. Before, it was this very corner where he lost the rear end and went for a bit of a spin. But now, is he going to be able to get it back? The car ahead of Kaspering has been struggling, it seems, on this lap. I wonder if maybe he's trying to save a bit of fuel to get there, or maybe his tyres are just really getting towards the end of their life, and Mackenberg getting the slipstream as we come down towards the bus stop. But it looks like he's not quite going to be able to overtake into this one. And I did notice that just coming into turn one on this lap, it looks like maybe Mackenberg was just lifting off a little bit as well, just trying to control the speed and the overspeed that he was getting. But unfortunately, just a little bit of a bad bus stop there, losing a few tenths, and he's going to lose potentially a little bit more, although he is in the slipstream. That's going to pull him back a little bit more. But we are getting to that point where there's a third of the race left to go, Ewan, and I think we might be seeing some of them come in the not too distant future.
Yeah, it's got to be soon. We've hit that magic 48-minute mark now, so anybody pitting from this point onwards can make it to the end pretty easily, I would say. Barrera might, but Barrera is in right now, so he's going to be taking his tyres, and he's timed that quite well, really, because he'll be able to make it to the end from here. But it's just a case of when these two are going to come in. Really, I can't remember if they quite came in on the same lap last time, but either way, they're going to be quite close together because there's only so far you can go on this tank of fuel at this stage, and so it's going to be quite close for these two, but good battle for the lead in this class. And also we've got one to focus on in GT3 as well. GTE seems a little bit more settled with a 30-second margin at the front of the field for Ottaviani, but this one and the GT3 battle very much up for grabs right now. We'll see how both of them pan out. It's going to take a little bit longer for the GT3 order to sort itself out. We're going to have to wait a little bit less time for these guys, fortunately.
Yeah, and they are still continuing this battle, still half a second between the two leaders of the P2 category. And remember, this car recently got what has been called a complete physics overhaul. So they've really, RaceRoom really gone over the car, trying to make it as good as possible, as well as Daytona getting some grip updates as well to try and make this event as good as possible. And it's certainly been entertaining so far with just 46 minutes left in the race. It is getting pretty close between these two leaders of the race. 4 tenths now, even less, as Mackenberg comes around the NASCAR turn 4 and on to the front straightaway. And it looks like Kasprink has gone first. He's taken the to the pit lane, and Mackenberg is going to be, I would say, full push now. He's going to be lighter on fuel. Obviously, his tyres are going to be older, but lighter on fuel now as we got a car spun off there in turn number 1. And this could be the opportunity for Mackenberg to set a really good time as long as his tyres are there. But I do think these guys might be taking tyres once again at the next pit stop and pushing hard to the end of the race.
Anything Mackenberger's got left, he needs to use now, just in its entirety. He needs to just absolutely gun it to try and get the undercut. Of course, presumably they're both going to take tyres, but again, we won't know until we see the gaps when they come out of the pit lane. But yeah, back on board with Clifford, who's chasing after Debbie for P9 in the GTEs in these Porsches, which have given us some great racing, as have the entire field. We've had just a stellar race here at Daytona. It's been a great event put on by RaceRoom, and I hope everyone at home has been enjoying it for the entirety of the event so far. And you've still got 45 minutes left to go, and well, we're at that time again where we're going to be seeing some drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane, because we had quite a few of them last time around, and well, it's certainly no different this time around. It seems like people aren't particularly learning from their mistakes, but as Cam said earlier, it's not the easiest pit lane to negotiate at all.
Yeah, certainly not here at Daytona, but the pit stops are so important, Ewan. We always talk about how you want to stay out of the pit lane to try and win the race, and Mackenberg's obviously trying to do that as well. But I just wonder if Mackenberg's going to be able to get it. Do you think Kasprink, with that early pit stop, is having maybe putting himself on the back foot in this final part of the race?
Well, he's certainly going to have to take on an extra lap or two of fuel, which is going to really set him back in this one. So he might well lose the lead here, really, on this pit stop cycle, which would not be good. But you never. Oh dear, that's a bit of a squeeze. Everybody trying to get as much track space as possible. But yeah, I think you might well lose the lead in this one. Really, it's hard to judge really how many laps there are remaining. So I don't think there'll be too much of a difference between the two calculations of the two. Because while if this was a race running to a lap distance, then Mackenberg would indeed be taking on less fuel, and that could indeed be the difference between the two. That's not quite the case in this occasion. They might well both have the same safety margin and end up putting in the same, roughly the same amount anyway. So it might not be too much of a factor, or it could be a race deciding factor. There's only one way to find out, I suppose, and that's wait just a little bit longer for this pit stop to happen. It's been a couple of laps now for the German. He's surely going to be in soon, and then this race is going to be set up for its finale. Are we going to see a grandstand finale between the two, or is one of them going to pull away due to these pit stops in the next few moments?
Yeah, we're about to find out. Kasprink getting the old headlights flashing, doesn't want to lose any time in this important phase of the race. Any second won or lost now could be important for the track position as we enter the final stint. Just losing a little bit of time there, getting past the Porsche there in coming into the international hairpin. Oh, there's going to be a bit of contact there between the two as well as they come through the apex of the horseshoe, and that is not going to help Kaspering at all, especially if Meickenberg can have a couple of clean laps here. As I was mentioning, the difference in fuel here could be sort of helping him just a little bit as well. We'll have to find out what the lap times are if they do complete this lap. Meickenberg obviously on the slightly older tyres, going to be struggling from that, so need to work out what is going to be best. But I do think that this could be quite important, because if Meickenberg, he's sat behind for so long, I do think he's got the pace, and Kaspering did seem to struggle at the end of the stint, so I think if Meickenberg can get ahead, he can probably hold on towards the latter parts of the race. But let's find out, as Kieran Clifford is the next driver to get a speeding in the pit lane penalty.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them, and it's a tricky pit lane, so you can't blame them. But yeah, it's small mistakes like that, and the drive-through penalty, definitely not ideal. But yeah, Kaspering and Meickenberg, it is just an absolute race against time. Kaspering right now is just driving the absolute wheels off that car in order to, get the undercut, try and stretch the gap as best he can, avoid the overcut from Meickenberg, because that lighter fuel will help him. Yes, older tyres, but if he saved him, if Meickenberg has saved a little bit of life from those tyres, he can then use them. And those little scuffles with the lapped cars, that's not what he needs. Of course, I'd say it's less than ideal, because Lepanic definitely could have maybe given him a bit more space and not fought it as hard, because at the end of the day, he's going to get through either way. And that was Meickenberg just there coming out of the pit lane. It was quite close, but I think it's pretty much equal pegging as they come out of the pit lane. It's the same gap as when both of them went in, even though Meickenberg went a couple of laps longer. He, to be fair, now, he might have, they're going to have pretty similar tanks of fuel, but Meickenberg is going to have slightly fresher tyres. It's only a couple of laps, but every little helps when it's so close in this category.
Oh yeah, that was very close indeed, and just shows you Kaspering, if he lost another second here or there in that traffic, then or even the other way around, that could have been very crucial in that battle. But Kaspering holds on to the track position, as he has done for quite a while now, so Meickenberg needs to do the overtake on the track, which is always easier said than done when the drivers are so close. We got Sebastian Rey still out there, but these guys will for sure assume the lead once he comes in to the pit lane. And I think Ewan, this is just building up for a great finish to the race, but Meickenberg's still got some work to do.
He certainly has, and there's it's still not in the lead yet, but that will all be resolved in the next few moments. Don't worry about that. But yeah, this is going to be a fight till the end, basically, between these two. 40 minutes to go, and where is it going to be, or who is going to be the race winner here? I do feel like it's going to be fought over. I don't think this is it between the two, but I think exactly what I said about the fuel game, about the safety margin, the not knowing how many laps remaining. I think it has rung true in the end, really. They've put roughly the same amount of fuel in, and there's almost been no difference at all, because undercut's not really a thing, because Kaspering will have had a heavy car with the full tank of fuel. I know he will have had new tyres probably, but he will have had a very heavy car. So it doesn't really get an undercut like you would see in other series where you don't put fuel in at all. Meickenberg wasn't really able to gain anything with the lighter car because he's on old tyres, so that will have stayed roughly the same, but the amount of fuel he put in roughly the same as well, and so all of a sudden they've come out in almost exactly the same way as they were before. It's about a second and a half, but I don't feel like it's going to stay this way. I feel like, as I said earlier, Kaspering has been keeping Meickenberg at arm's distance for a little while, but how long can that go on for? I don't think 40 minutes.
Well, we will see, because Meickenberg sat there. I mean, it was a good, pretty much all of that middle stint that he was there in, just in close reach, but not quite enough to get the overtake. So he's now got to find a way past, find those last couple of tenths that he just couldn't quite find out in that middle stint. He has got just under 39 minutes to do it. And I think he certainly has the potential to do it, but it's going to be a full push to the end. Just confirming, both drivers are on the soft compound tyre again, so that's their ones of choice. Interestingly, Sebastian Rey has swapped to the softs from the mediums as well. Just thinking those mediums haven't worked out too well for him, as these guys at the front also choosing the soft as well. So that seemingly is the tyres of choice. And looking back, as these guys obviously try and work them out, just looking back at the GTE category, and 40 seconds now for Ottaviani. So quite a big gap, over a second faster on the previous lap than Brokus to be behind him. So yeah, in complete control, and all of the GTE cars now taking their mandatory stop.
Yeah, things. It's close between Kasperink and Mackenberg for sure, and for Ottaviani, he's just had the most relaxed drive. I'm sure it hasn't been relaxed for him at all. It's probably been very stressful having to negotiate the traffic, knowing at any moment anything can go wrong, whether that be hardware issue or something along those lines. He's been absolutely sweating. He's still got 37 minutes to go, so that stress is still not alleviated just yet. But in terms of driving, in terms of the gap, he's had absolutely no competition whatsoever, and he's just driven perfectly and has done all he needs to do. But once again, we've got Ewan Royer on the back of Tim Neubauer, and both of these two, the Chevrolet versus the Audi. Royer got past with an absolutely incredible slingshot quite a while ago actually now, but he finds himself back behind the Audi, and he's going to need to do it all over again if he wants to get himself inside the top 7 for the GT3 category. Just looking at that gap between Kasperink and Mackenberg, it really it's just a stalemate. And as Ewan keeps saying, Kasperink is just doing enough to keep Mackenberg at arm's distance, but one mistake, one being holed up in traffic, something along those lines, and it brings Mackenberg right into the slipstream. And as we saw at the end of the last stint, as soon as Mackenberg is in the slipstream, he doesn't let you go.
Yeah, certainly doesn't. He's going to be right there. He stayed about 1.2, 1.3 for the last lap or so now, and doing a really good job to stay there. But Kasperink is able to hold him at arm's reach, and they're really pushing. Ray is now 45 seconds behind these cars, so losing another sort of 10 seconds over the last few laps as well, and doing just a good job with these two drivers really pushing. And I know obviously it doesn't mean anything, but interesting to also see on the little box with the driver names that the rating difference between these two drivers is quite a lot. About 500 points between them, so maybe Mackenberg just doing more races for that. But Kasperink, despite showing a lower rating in that regard, really putting down a good fight. But Mackenberg is now within a second. And Ewan, is this going to be the time, or do you think he's going to wait towards the end of the race?
Well, I think he's just got to try and make the move whenever, really, in this one. I think he's just got to go for it if the opportunity arises, and it might well do in the next couple of moments, because we're about to see Kasperink get held up into the bus stop chicane, and that could ruin his run all the way through NASCAR 3 and 4 and down into turn 1. Mackenberg backed off slightly to get a better exit out of that corner, and it looks like he may well have done, but also wasn't quite close enough. We go on board here, and that GTE, as you can see, is still very, very quick. Not bad through the corners. His top end is not bad as well here. You're about to see, especially if it tucks into the slipstream of one of these guys, it really will stick with them. But look at this, Mackenberg gaining again. Is there going to be a move into turn 1? It's his first half chance, but not really a proper one. He is going to have to wait just that little bit longer for another opportunity to arise, but this is the closest he's ever been.
And some GTs coming up ahead as well. This could be his best opportunity, really. This could be his time to strike, as he's getting very close into the international horseshoe. Mackenberg is really now fighting for the lead here in the 2.4 hours of Daytona. Is he going to be able to finally get back this lead, as British there getting a drive-through penalties, as someone else did a little bit earlier, a few seconds ago as well. So some more guys falling foul of the speed limit. But back to Mackenberg, and he's really getting close enough. And as they get towards these cars ahead, they're going to be catching them, hopefully, just before the bus stop. Otherwise, that is going to be a really good opportunity, and this could be the overtake. Although he's just lost time a little bit during the latter part of that infield section. But look at this, too wide with the GTEs ahead of him. This is going to be a really awkward section for Mackenberg to try and get past. This could be him actually losing some time. He's going to be blocked off here, and there goes his opportunity, as we see the two cars ahead battling, and that is just how multi-class racing works sometimes.
Yeah, Lady Luck shone his way for Mackenberg a couple of laps ago to get him inside the slipstream, and now he's lost it because of the two GTEs going at it. I think it was Marco Vosler, and if I'm having a look at the live timings, it was Williams, both of them going at it for P5 in their respective category, and it just ruined the momentum for Mackenberg, who definitely was hoping to have a look, maybe not into the bus stop, but definitely in towards turn 1, and now all of that hard work, all of that luck is now completely gone in a matter of a couple of corners, and that is a shame, but he's still got 33 minutes minutes. That's still a decent chunk of time left to go. Not ideal, but he's certainly got the pace, and he's going to be pushing absolutely to the limit in order to close that gap. And still, we don't know who's going to come out on top. But once again, Kasperling just doing what he needs to do to maintain that gap. And even if Mackenberg does get in front, Kasperling could very easily just stick with him and then come right back at him the next lap. It's going to definitely be a battle to watch and a battle to remember for sure.
Yeah, and despite the track being so wide here at Daytona, it just shows you how the multi-class racing can work, and certainly, not too uncommon around these parts is to get, obviously, the GTEs, they're having their own battle, they're trying to do their own thing, and then you get the prototypes come up behind them, and it's certainly something that we have seen before, and we're probably going to see again before we get to the end of the race. We're just shy of half an hour left to go. And Mackenberg already back within 1 second, so I do not think this is over by any means. But Kasperling, he's just maybe it's a bit of luck, maybe it's a bit of traffic management as well, but he's just getting his car in the right places to hold on to this position for now.
Yeah, he's just about doing enough, just under a second, still the margin. And that battle, by the way, we just saw them go through. It's now the battle for fourth between Williams and Vossler, because now Heinrich and Clifford are very close to those guys all of a sudden. So I know there's pit stops going on in both GT categories, but plenty of battles, and indeed for the leader in GT. Ostoviani loses the lead very briefly, but yeah, there's still plenty going on in the other categories as well, and still GT free to resolve as well. So this race is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Still just over half an hour to go. I think it is going to take that little bit of luck for Mackenberg to really get close once again in traffic. He doesn't seem to be able to do it on his own. He does need the help of the slower traffic. Luckily, there is still, how many are there? Roughly 25, a little bit more cars remaining in the race. So there are quite a lot still cars to make that difference. However, they're not catching them at a particularly fast rate because of how close the times are. So the opportunities may well be few and far between.
Yes, the traffic is probably what's going to make or break this overtake or potential overtake for Mackenberg. And as you say, if the cars get just to spread out a little bit, they have a lot of time where it's just these two cars going absolutely flat out, there's obviously less chance for there to be some discrepancies. When you get a whole train of GTs to overtake, that is where you can really gain or lose some time. But Mackenberg, he's within a second. He's been within a second for quite a while, and he's been able to stay there for a long time. So he definitely knows what the back of one of these prototypes looks like. He just needs to get that little bit closer to try and make the overtake work. And this time he is about 6/10 behind as we come around NASCAR 4 and getting that slipstream, but he just needs those extra few tenths, and then he'll be able to do something. And I was just looking at the GTEs once again. Looks like they've made their pit stop because Rokas DeB was ahead for a second. So Ottaviani must have come in, and now Rokas DeB is back out in that third place in the GTEs, with Tosma sitting in second place, but Ottaviani still in control of that one. But for now we'll just focus on this prototype battle, because once again it's getting very close.
Yeah, it has been close for the entire race camp between these two, apart from that small, brief little interval where Mackenberg decided to make it interesting for us and then try and chase back after Kasperling. But to the surprise of absolutely no one, Ottaviani is still leading the way in GTE. But between these two, I think Mackenberg's assault is going to be made off the exit of the Western Horseshoe, and you can see he's got on an absolutely blistering exit. He's probably, I think, now going to start setting it up for moving to turn one. Maybe not quite close enough for the bus stop, but certainly he's going to get that slingshot, the one that we've seen time and time again through this race, whether that be from Johan or anyone else in this race. That I don't know what it is. Something from the run from the bus stop to turn one just gives you hypersonic speed, whatever it is. But yeah, Mackenberg just needs to close the gap, have crucially a very good run through the bus stop, and that's going to set him up incredibly well in order to close the gap. But again, he's that 5/10 coming through. It's going to need a mistake from Kasperling. 4/10 as they exit. Is it close enough? Is it a good enough run in order to claim get the victory, get the race lead for the moment. He's going to want to chase after the victory for sure. But with 28 minutes to go, we'll find out which of the two it's going to be. But for the moment, Kaspering seems to be the one to beat. But just look at that speed. Mackenberg absolutely charging after him. Is he just going to run out of road before turn one comes? Is he going to see this as an opportunity? Is he going to seize this opportunity? You can see Mackenberg all over the rear end of Kaspering in towards turn one, just going to run out of road before they reach the braking zone. But yeah, that's certainly a statement. And now Kaspering is feeling the pressure.
Yeah, you're right. You can really get a good exit speed out of that bus stop. And turn one is looking like a good overtaking opportunity. But you've been watching this battle for a while. You know this track pretty well. Where do you think it's going to be for Mackenberg? Is it going to be turn one, or do you think there's somewhere else on the track that you can get this position?
Oh, it's got to be turn one, really. That's the only place really where there's enough slipstream for him to get anywhere near, and even then, the opportunities have been few and far between. So I'd be very surprised if it goes anywhere other, or starts at least anywhere other than turn one. However, the battle will almost certainly continue on for quite a long time after turn one. It's side by side. We've seen racing pretty much constantly through the infield section of this circuit, and that is likely going to continue here in this race. So the battle's going to continue on for a while once they do get side by side, but I can't see in risking it anywhere else other than turn one. You see here into the bus stop, just feathering the throttle, showing the nose ever so slightly, but nobody can really seriously go for a move here unless you are fully steaming up the inside there, and even then it is fairly risky. So you wouldn't want to risk it. Much more likely in a few moments time when they get down to turn one this time. He looks close enough once more.
Yeah, he looks like he's just really pushing now. He's really getting in that slipstream. I wonder if before he was just saving, but could this be the moment? Or is Kaspering just maybe saving a little bit? We'll have to find out. Mackenberg to the outside of turn number one. This is going to be a huge move if he can do it. He's been behind for so long and they get so close. But as we get on the brakes, Mackenberg can't quite get that overtake, can't quite get his car towards the inside, which is really what it's going to need to be. And it does look like he's really starting to push now. But I do wonder, is this Mackenberg pushing, or is this Kaspering starting to struggle just a little bit with 26 minutes to go? I mean, Kaspering's last lap time wasn't too bad, half a second off his personal best. So I think it's just these two guys pushing to the limit of what this car's capable of at this moment in time.
And both of them just getting the absolute maximum out of each other. Mackenberg is pushing to his limit, so is Kaspering. They both want this victory dearly. They both are going to be absolutely elbows out when the time comes, and Mackenberg is just on the limit, chasing after Kaspering, and you can see it's all about this exit here. That's going to set it up. It's the planning ahead. Yes, he might not get it in towards the bus stop, but then he's going to close the gap to the bus stop, then have an even better run in towards turn one. That's where it's going to be won or lost, I think. And Mackenberg, this has been a long time coming. This is going to be his best opportunity probably ever since he got within 1 second. You can just see that absolutely it's so intimidating. And I'm sure for Kaspering it's going to be so intimidating just seeing that DP just chase after him. And all he needs now is a good run off the bus stop, and he's about a tenth closer than he was the lap previously, and he's just going to absolutely send it. I'm sure he's going to be closing, and Kaspering has got absolutely no help from anyone, so it is just a straight fight. Mackenberg tucked up in the slipstream. He's not going to be feeling little to no drag at all, and he's just flying to the right hand side. This is what we've been waiting for the last hour or so. He's pulled out of the slipstream and has just absolutely not moved. He's hit an absolute brick wall of air. It's going to be the outside for turn one, but once again Kaspering just manages to brake late enough in order to hang on, claim the apex, and Mackenberg doesn't seem like he's pushing full send in order to seal this move.
Yeah, he isn't taking that those last extra couple of percentages of risk so far, as Kaspering goes a little bit deep there. As we come to the International Horseshoe, Mackenberg getting a good run as we come towards the kink, but Kaspering is going to hold on to that position for now, and it seems that exit off the bus stop, Mackenberg is really pushing to go over all of the curbs, getting a bit of a later apex here, trying to get a run as we come already towards the end of this infield section. Is he going to be able to work his way? Because the thing is, you don't want to be too close at this section, because if you're too close, you don't get the sort of slingshot effect that Zach's been talking about. You don't get that overspeed. You sort of get in sort of a little bit of a hole where you can't really gain. This far back, where sort of 3-4 tenths, that is really where it seems to be that Mackenberg is sitting pretty. And as we come to the bus stop for another time, can he get his car towards the inside of turn one? Is he going to take those final bits of risk? We're just about to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about to all kick off again down into turn number 1, I'd imagine, with Kaspering under pressure, although he's done that bus stop chicane very, very well indeed. Absolutely nailed it on that occasion, and he's blown Mackenberg completely out of the water there. We go on board with it. Look at the car lengths that have opened up in front of him here. Absolutely nailed that. So I think he's actually got himself out of danger into turn number 1 here. Mackenberg's going to close up again with the slipstream here. He's going to be right back on the tail of the Corvette in front, but no way of getting through there because of that one corner there. And obviously it's difficult to do that every single time because he did it pretty much perfectly on that occasion. But if he can do that, it would be very helpful because then he would not be under any pressure at all into turn number 1. Meanwhile, in GT3, by the way, we've just had the leaders in of Lapinick and also Sarlo have been in. So Michael Mackenberg, this is brother of Sven, into the lead of that one now as well.
Yeah, that is. How big is that going to go up to? 17 seconds, 19 seconds now. The bigger that goes, the easier of a time Mackenberg's to have, as Sarlo seems to have got past Lapinick as well. And Mackenberg, both brothers potentially fighting for the victory in their respective categories. And that is looking pretty good as it's gone up. Carton now is in that second place, 23 seconds. Can Mackenberg hold on? So that is basically 1 second per minute left in the race, which could just be about enough for him to hold on. We will find out indeed, but we've also got to find out what the other brother Sven can do in the DPs as well as he comes towards the bus stop for another time. Is this going to be the moment? He is very close indeed. Is he going to be too close? We're about to find out as he comes through NASCAR turn 3 and 4. Is this going to be the moment?
We'll have to wait and find out because he's been trying lap after lap. His brother's been going to be boasting some success if he can keep it clean. He's pulled an absolute worldie in terms of the strategy, and now Sven is going to try and go for the move. He's closing at a rate of knots, an absolute rate of knots. He's closing, pulls to the right hand side, and as I said before, hits a brick wall as he pulls out the slipstream, but it's still enough in order to have that run. Kaspering is making that Corvette as wide as it possibly can be. Mackenberg again looking to the outside, just can't find a way through. Is he going to go for the old over and under? But just can't. And Kaspering is just playing this defensive game to absolute perfection, and I don't know how he's doing it, how he's keeping the absolute monster that is Mackenberg behind him for so long. You can see he's pushing him through all over the rear end of Kaspering. Mackenberg just wants to get on with it, he wants to get through, but Michael is just saying, no, this is not happening. 21 minutes left to go. I've been leading for the majority of it. You are not coming through now.
To hold on to this position under this amount of pressure for so long is a really great advertisement for his mental strength as well. It's not something that is talked about often with with sim racing, that you sort of get the similar sort of physical side of it. Obviously not the G-forces, but the driving, the wheels and the pedals is sort of similar to real life, but it's also the mental side of it when you're in these battles. And keeping yourself calm, keeping yourself cool as Mackenberg's now getting the slipstream, this time up before the bus stop. Is this going to be an alternative way of him getting lead? Although he goes to the right once again. What he's trying to do here, I think he's trying to slow Kaspering down as they come to the bus stop. A little bit of contact. He's trying to make Kaspering get the worst exit that he can, and that might have worked because he's only 3.5 tenths behind again. Is this going to be the time that he can get the lead? He's getting the slipstream already, and a bit of a car ahead could help him.
It could do, or could hinder him even here, because this could get quite tight going down over through the trioval, and a little bit of slipstream from the Porsche there has helped Kaspering just get that little bit of extra speed. So Mackenberg has to tuck in again, and once more he can't get through here. Once again he's struggling to get through in the Porsche. Very late on the brake. The GTs are fantastic on the brakes, by the way, especially compared to the DPs, and they're really causing a lot of problems on occasion. Speaking of problems, I think these guys are about to have a lot of them, because there's a lot of GTs up in front. There's GTEs and 3s all up here, and they're all battling between themselves as well. I think Royer and Neubauer are just up in front here, that you can just see, along with at least one GTE I saw there, kind of tailing them, so maybe two. So it's about to get very, very hectic. How is this going to affect this battle? It couldn't even make or break either of the guys' races. It could allow Mackenberg to get through. It could block him from going through entirely, like the last Porsche did, or indeed it could set a margin between these two that is actually taken to the checkered flag. So it could be very crucial these next couple of corners.
And what Mackenberg needs to realise is when he makes his overtake as well. I know he's sort of struggling and is maybe going to be a one-shot wonder when the right opportunity comes, as the lights are flashing going down the middle. Always going to be a bit of contact there, almost with the leader, the Porsche trying to get towards the Corvette, even trying to get towards the outside, and 2 cars now in between the 2 leading prototypes. That worked out really well for Kasperick, but the risk that he took going between those cars, the risk of contact was high. There might have been just a little bit of rubbing between the 2, and Mackenberg now losing a good half a second, 7/10 or so, and that is going to be quite difficult for him. We've only got 18 minutes to go now. The laps are going, and that just shows you how the traffic can affect these battles. And it does seem to be obviously a lot better to get the traffic first rather than be in the car behind and picking up the pieces.
Yeah, for sure. And I think time is going to be Mackenberg's biggest enemy at this point, because yes, he's close. Yes, he can reel him in. But at the same time, you know, as the clock clicks down, as the laps wind down, as we get towards the end of this, what has been an absolutely sensational race. And as I said before, I hope everyone at home is enjoying this. Get everyone you know in watching this stream. It's going to be an absolutely sensational finish to this race. Mackenberg, Kaspering, they've been at it for the entirety of this last stint, and they're still going to continue that for the next 17 minutes or so. Mackenberg, he's going to be slightly disheartened, slightly demoralised from that traffic, but he's not ever going to give up. He's shown that fighting spirit all throughout this race, and he's going to be right back onto the back of Kaspering, as he already is. 7/10 between the 2. He's already back within a second. Kaspering looking in his mirrors. He's got probably the most sweatiest palms in the world between these 2. They are absolutely giving everything, getting the best out of each other, and this has been such a good battle. It's not over. Mackenberg 6/10 in it, and as long as he can get a good run out of the bus stop, he's going to have that slipstream, and he's again just needs to set it up. It's all about picking his moments, picking the right opportunity, baiting Kaspering into a mistake, and there's still more traffic to negotiate.
Yeah, this traffic, it's just got to be the right or wrong time for one of these drivers that is going to solve it. But Mackenberg went up to about 1.3 seconds behind, already caught up to half a second behind. He's definitely the faster driver between these 2, but overtaking is always easier said than done. He needs to find a way of getting his car down the inside here of turn number 1, but Kaspering knows that, and he's always hugging this inside line right by the double yellow line. But Mackenberg, I wasn't really expecting him to get this close, but look at him right at the end there. And I do wonder if Kaspering may be saving fuel, or maybe it's just a difference in the setup of the cars as well, because Mackenberg always closes in right at the end of the straight there, sort of more than we've seen between other cars battling. But Mackenberg getting close now in the infield section. It's just if he gets ahead, he doesn't want to then just be easily re-overtaken and have to do it all again.
Yeah, he's got to make sure this move sticks, but I can't see either of them getting away from the other, to be honest, for the remainder of this race. Obviously, traffic could well do that. However, I thought the margin that opened up just there was actually going to be race deciding, actually, when it was 1.2 seconds. I thought they were just going to be trading lap times for the end until the end of the race there, but Mackenberg has shown himself to be a little bit quicker here, really, and now on the evidence of that, maybe now when he gets in front, he might, or if he gets in front, he might actually be able to run away here. I think it's very important for Kaspering to just stay in front at this stage in the race. We're too late on in this one now for you to trade positions strategically. With only 15 minutes to go, you've got to just try and be in the lead at all times, even at Daytona. And so, you know, it's going to be a battle right till the end here. It's going to be a lot of defensive driving coming up here for Kaspering. He's going to be wishing those minutes away.
Mackenberg was just the tiniest bit too close there. He lost maybe an extra tenth that he didn't want to on the exit, and I think he's going to be getting a huge run here, but is it going to be enough? He needs to gain this last extra tenth or so. He's going to have to maybe do a little switcheroo, go around the outside. Oh, a bit of contact being made between the 2 leaders of the race. Fortunately, everything is good, but Mackenberg, I think he needs to try sort of go to the right and then flick down the inside as they kink into turn 1. High risk move, but it might be the only way that he can get past.
High risk, high reward for Mackenberg. He's going to need to take it. He needs to find some way through, because Kaspering every lap in, lap out, he covers that inside, completely white lines it to the left-hand side and covers it off, because he knows turn 1 is the most realistic opportunity for Mackenberg to get through. And it's either going to take a mistake or something for Kaspering. They're catching a bit of lap traffic. Fortunately, it's the same class, so they're not going to be held up too much, but still less than ideal. In fact, it could be a blessing for Kaspering if he can have the slipstream. Doesn't want to get through because he wants that slipstream. Is going to help him in order to stay in front of Kaspering, but no, he's going to have to get up the inside. That could slow his momentum, could allow Mackenberg only 3.5 2.5 tenths now, as he was very close to the lap traffic, leaving nothing on the table, Mackenberg. And just a moment to say, this is Kaspering's first ranked race in, I think, ever. I saw in the YouTube chat, he started ranked racing since yesterday, didn't know how to get into the server, and now he is fighting with Sven Mackenberg for the race leader, the Daytona 2.4. Mackenberg less than 2 tenths behind the race leader as they go through the bus stop chicane. He needs a good exit. Can Kaspering cover it off one more time? 4 tenths between the two, 13 minutes left on the clock. This is sensational, and Mackenberg is all by himself. Kaspering has got no slipstream in front of him. It's just pure engine power, pure slipstream as he chases after him in towards turn 1. Is he going to come out on top? There's a bit more traffic just up ahead. Is he going to be able to get the slingshot? He's tucked up, pulls to the right-hand side. Deja vu, as it has been, but again, hits that brick wall. Is he going to do what Cam said? Dummy to the inside. There's no space. He's going to look for it. This is what Mackenberg needs. Is he late enough on the brakes in towards turn 1? There's contact. No, Kaspering, he's held it. They're going round. What has happened here? And Kaspering's been finally sent round. Mackenberg inherits the race lead, and surely the show's going to have to take a look at that. But no, Mackenberg, very, very sportsmanlike as to say, no, that was my fault. You're coming back through. But what a dramatic end, and it's, well, still not over.
High risk, high reward, and that almost ended everything. I think they actually got away with that one. I think the damaging and everything like that is going to be just about okay. But Mackenberg had to try. That was the way he was going to have to do it, diving it down the inside of turn number 1. But he was just not quite there. Didn't get down the inside. Hit the back of his rival, and he's now got to try and do it all over again. The issue is Kaspering now knows that is an opportunity, and obviously the adrenaline's going to be going even more now as we're getting just to 12 minutes left in this 2.4 hours, and it's getting so close indeed. And the two rivals touching, I mean, Ewan, we saw it coming, and unfortunately they're all okay.
Yeah, fortunately, but it could have turned out quite a lot worse. I think you're right, though, in what you said a little bit earlier, in that this is the best way for Mackenberg to get through. High risk and low reward, I'm afraid, on that occasion for him. But it might well be the winning move eventually, coming to the outside, the inside. The only problem he has now is that Kaspering will be expecting it when he pulls to the outside of the triangle, and I really don't think Mackenberg is quite good enough on the brakes to zip right around the outside of Kaspering into turn 1. It's quite a difficult thing to do, really, and you need to be very, very good on the brakes. I don't think I don't think Mackenberg quite has that within him to do that. So I think he's going to struggle, and may well struggle to get through entirely at this point, but you never know. I say that, he's gone steaming under brakes there, maybe a little bit too hard, and this is the problem. Traffic involved, traffic between the two of them. Is that going to define the race? Well, maybe, but just over 10 minutes to go. About a second is the margin. Mackenberg needs to catch up first before he does any more attempts at this lead overtake.
And as this battle's just slowed down for just a second, we'll quickly look at the other categories. In your GTE category, Ottaviani's still leading the way by some 20 seconds from Tolsma now in that second place, with Rockers Dubai to be in that third place, and Clifford there just going up ahead of Williams for fourth place. And in your GT3s, the other Mackenberg brother still leading the way there, 20 seconds. He's able to hold on despite probably fuel saving just a little bit towards the end of this race. Carton has managed to get himself up into that second place, with Lapanik there dropping off now 11 seconds behind him in third place on the podium. And Sarlo is only a couple of seconds behind as well, before a huge gap to Royer just behind. So yeah, there are your updates for the other categories, as we're seeing Kieran Clifford here, as we just mentioned, Williams and Clifford having this battle for what is now fourth place in the GTE battle.
Yeah, it's a great fight between the two. Clifford not giving anything at all against Williams, who is nursing damage, but Clifford also himself had a drive-through penalty to serve at the pit lane. But yeah, he's taken over. Oh, that was a tap to the wall as well, bouncing off it. That's going to kill his momentum and ruin his chances of getting himself in the top four, at least on this occasion. And with only 9 minutes left to go, only a few laps, with just shy of 2 minutes a lap. Let's say 5-6 laps left of this race to go, not long of the 2.4 hours of Daytona. And Mackenberg and Kaspering, they've sort of separated themselves a little bit. Maybe Mackenberg picked up a bit of front end damage in that collision. It's very likely for that to have happened, but yeah, it's a shame. Maybe some traffic getting in the way. He needs to get into some clear air. Yeah, that'll be the issue. Look at all that traffic both of them need to negotiate. So for Mackenberg, he needs to get through and get onto the back of Kaspering, because he's not got long left, and he's still probably a second and a half off where he needs to be.
And looking at the times, Kasprink's last time was a 40.7, which is only 3/10 of his personal best of the race. So Kasprink's still pushing to the absolute limit. I don't think he's got anything in the way of proper damage from the contact. I think he was really just sort of pushed around, and Mackenberg now needs to try and catch up. But I do wonder if maybe he's got a bit of damage. Maybe he's just lost that final bit of motivation and adrenaline. We'll have to find out, because he's still sitting at that sort of 1.8, 1.9 seconds off. He has been for a lap or two now, as Kasprink is just coming around to, as you say, getting towards maybe 4, or maybe sort of 5, 6 laps left of this race, getting towards the end. And very close indeed. But also, actually, I've just seen the battle for third place is getting pretty close as well, with Foseki and Hyde. Only 2 seconds between them as well for the final place on the podium. So still plenty of places up for grabs in the final 8 minutes.
Yeah, Vasily has lost quite a lot of time recently. He's now a minute and a half behind Mackenberg, and that gap really was not that big before. Hyde is very much on course for, well, not on course for a podium, but he's got a look in now at the very least, as we're looking at Marvin Mackenberg now, leader in the GT3 category, 15th overall, came into today 45th in RaceRoom's rankings, by the way, so he's clearly one of the best, and it'll be probably moving up the ranking after this victory. He's managed to shake off quite a lot of very, very worthy competitors with a great strategy. Basically, he's not done it with electrifying pace, even though he's had very good pace as well. He's just stayed out of trouble, saved his fuel, done the one stop, the only person to do the one stop, and it's played out very, very well.
Yeah, certainly has, and I think he's going to be pretty proud of that. It's actually gone up to about 30 seconds now. So Carton, was it, who was behind him? He's had an issue. He's gone down to 21st overall, and he's obviously made some sort of issue there, unfortunately, as we've gone to Ottaviani, 6th place overall, 21 seconds in the lead. He's just been the man on fire this race, hasn't he? He's been on pole position, led the race from pretty much start to finish, apart from when the pit stops were happening. And obviously the natural order just gets messed around. There's going to be a bit of contact there. That was getting very close to Ottaviani, not leading the way with just 6.5 minutes to go in this race. And very good job from him so far. And actually just seen on the table, Sven Mackenberg getting 1.3 seconds behind now. So he's starting to catch up on lap 80 of the race. Now on to lap 81, 6.5 minutes to go. Is he going to have enough time to get one more attempt in? It's going to be very close indeed.
Well, it could be what he needs. Maybe this is the backwards momentum that he needs. Of course, getting a little bit stuck up in traffic at the moment, but maybe at the moment this is what he needs. Maybe he needs to drop back a little bit, come through with some sensational pace, and then drive onto the back of Kasprink, and then use that to get through, because he's going to need to. 6 minutes left. Not only does he need to catch up, he needs to get through. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be an absolutely massive task if he wins this race. But you can see that Kasprink is getting held up a little bit. Not ideal. He's having to take awkward lines into the West Horseshoe, which again is going to kill his momentum down and towards the banking. Mackenberg once again under 1 second, just about teetering on the edge of it. And Kasprink, he's going to be feeling this pressure. He's going to be flashing those lights and saying, "Move out of my way. I have a race to win." And he's going to want to do it. 7 tenths between the two, so it is still very much on. But again, Mackenberg, is he maybe going to teeter a little bit of caution? He doesn't. He can't have any caution or anxiety going for this move, but it is going to tingle in the back of his mind that I was aggressive before and it didn't work well, so maybe I need to reel it in a little bit. But he can't do that. He can't afford to do that if he wants to win this race.
Yeah, he's only going to get one opportunity, I would say. Last lap, though, he was half a second quicker, so he's certainly got the pace. He's going to be able to catch up before the end of the race. As we're coming towards the end, I believe it's going to be 3 laps to go here of the 2.4 hours of Daytona for 2022. Obviously in the build up for the real life race, obviously getting underway as we speak really this evening, as Mackenberg now in 2nd place. Can he do this? 3 laps to go, 1 second to him and his competitor is ahead, and always this bit of traffic though, losing him some extra time, extra tenths of a second. That could be quite crucial in whether he gets an opportunity or not. But it's really getting towards the last ditch time, and can he make it work?
That was Verstetti Norge, by the way, just in front of Hyde. So those guys are battling for third just in the background of these shots right now, with only 3 laps to go. So yeah, it's all getting very close in the Daytona prototype category at the moment, especially up towards the front. So interesting to watch these two battles going on. But it's just a case of whether Mackenberg is going to get another opportunity. But even then, I'm not entirely convinced he's going to get through, because he's had multiple opportunities to so far, and he hasn't really looked like he's got very close at all. The only time he did get close is when he tried that risky one down the inside at turn 1. And we know that that's always going to carry a very big risk every time he does that from now on. And indeed, Kasperink is expecting it this time as well. So even if Mackenberg is able to get close enough, which he might not do, I'm still not entirely convinced that he's going to get even a look in at this race win.
Yeah, he's going to be on the back foot really as it comes to that, as we're coming towards. It's going to be about 3 minutes or just over 3 minutes to go, with about 1 minute 40 odd lap time, yet 2 laps to go when we get to the start finish line. And that's really going to be difficult for him. And so just behind Hyde is only 1 second behind. We saw in the GTEs Williams and Clifford swapping on the last lap as well, and then swapping back again. So there are loads of battles still going as we get towards this final lap, which is good to see that even after 2 hours and 20 odd minutes of racing, we're still seeing such close battles here. And Zach, it's certainly been a very entertaining race. And who do you think is going to come out on top in these battles?
Well, I don't know. It could go any way for all of them at the moment. Kasperink could hang on, Mackenberg could just absolutely send it. But as Ewan said, it's going to be tricky for him. He's running out of time, he's running out of opportunity, and as every corner ticks by, that's one less corner he has in order to win this race, which is just going to hinder his progress. But between Williams and Clifford, again, could go either way. Clifford is definitely feisty, definitely a quick adversary for Williams, and both of them have been going at it. But 5 tenths between Mackenberg and Kasperink. He needs to do this. He needs to have the best run through the bus stop of his life if he wants to win this race. Clifford gets past Williams for P4 in the GTE category, and unfortunately, just have a look. Sebastian Ray unfortunately has had an issue, and he from P3 is now 26th overall, which is a big shame. But we turn our attention back to the front. 4 tenths between Mackenberg and Kasperink. We're approaching probably one of the final laps now. I'm not sure if it's going to run down, because next lap the time will run out. So I'm not sure if it's plus 1 lap or not. So either way, they're running out of time. Whether it's 1 lap or 2 laps, Mackenberg needs to get it done, and he needs to get it done now.
Yeah, this is his opportunity. This is going to be it. This is going to be the last time they're actually going to be braking for turn number 1. Next time they're going to be going across the line. Is this going to be the opportunity? Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? Is he going to make contact again? It's going to be the outside this time for Mackenberg. He's going to try it. He's going to keep it. He's going to hold it there. Can he hold it all the way around the outside of turn 1? It's often not the best place, but that is going to slow down Kasperink as we come towards the International Horseshoe. Is he going to be able to just dive it on the brakes like he does on some of the slower cars? No, he's not, but this is going to be a good opportunity to get a nice exit as we come out onto the second part of this infield section. Where do you see the next overtaking opportunity here?
Well, probably right about now, really. He needs to do it now or never. These corners are running out in this race here. This is the final lap, and he needs to do it as quickly as possible. He's trying to get the run out of the West Horseshoe here, but once again, it's not enough. The bus stop might have to be it, or indeed a run to the line. Will it be side by side across the line for the win in this race? It might well be. Will that traffic play a role in this fight? You never know. Down at turn 1, Mackenberg was the most committed he's ever been on the brakes. He's really giving this a good go. You can see that he's putting everything on the line at the moment. He's laying it all out on the road right now, but is it going to be enough? It's still very, very difficult for him from here.
And this is really going to be his opportunity. He's not going to be able to overtake here, but he needs to be in a good place to get the absolute slingshot of his life out of the chicane for the final time. 10 seconds to go in the race. This is actually the closest he's been. Is he going to be able to get himself ahead? Can he get the slipstream to go to the right hand side and be just ahead as we hit 0 on the clock? This is going to be it. Who is going to be to the line? Kasperink defending to the right hand side, squeezing him, touching him, getting the sparks out, and Kasperink is going to be able to hold on as we get to the start finish line. A bit of contact once again, and Mackenberg has to settle for second place. That spin coming out onto the oval part of the track about an hour and a half ago is really going to be his issue in this race. He just couldn't overtake Kasperink, and Kasperink, in what we believe is his first ever ranked race, is going to take victory.
That is insane. And I stand corrected. It's his 6th overall. He did 5 rank races just to get his rating up. But still, that's remarkable. The fact that he's completely new to this scene and he's just won a race such as this one in front of such a huge audience. My heart was absolutely racing, let alone what it was like for the pair of them. Casper was just probably just his heart must have been racing. He was just trying so hard, looking in his mirrors, just keeping that foot flat to the floor, pedal to the metal as he was trying to. It's not over for the rest of the grid, of course. It's only over for the prototypes. But yeah, Mackenberg, he's going to be gutted. But it was such a good race between the two of them, and we've had such a good race overall. It's been complete and utter dominance for this man right here, Ottaviani. He just, I don't know how he's done it. He's just been a step above everyone else. This is a world-class field, and he's been just a step above even that.
And just first of all, a little bit further up the road, though, is Marvin Mackenberg, the brother of your second place finishing prototype. He's actually going to be coming across the line first. We'll see him across the line. He's done the one-stop strategy, and he has had a really good time with it. We thought in the first part of the race that he was losing time, that he just didn't have the same speed he has in qualifying, but he proved us all wrong, and he managed to do the right strategy, and he's won the race comfortably as well. As we get a bit of a side-by-side finish, I think that is with Ottaviani actually, as we get towards the latter parts of the lap there, and just see confirmation on the screen here. Kaspering leading the P2s, and Ottaviani leading the way in the GTEs, and it was Mackenberg there for the GT3s. And Ewan, that was such a crazy race, so much action battling up and down the field. You know, you can't really ask for much more.
No, exactly. 600ths of a second only separating the two virtual drivers by TX3 drivers at the end of that race. And yeah, a fantastic day for them, by the way. 1-2 in the overall race and winning all 3 classes. So they've completely dominated today. That's why we saw Mackenberg slowing down to go side by side with Ottaviani across the line. Very nice to see those guys doing that. But yeah, well deserved for them after that race. A long race, as you can see, for quite a lot of them. Not many getting to the end at the end of that one. A fair few DNFs, it has to be said. But yeah, it was a very good race. Thoroughly enjoyable. I hope everybody enjoyed it at home as well, as much as we did, because yeah, that was very good action indeed. Battles going on all the time, and a grandstand finish between the two as well. Just that one jink to the right on the run up to the tri-oval. They made a slight bit of contact, but Kaspering just about did enough to hold off Mackenberg to the line there. It's a very close finish, but just about got himself over the line first.
Yeah, that bit of contact might have just been what stopped Mackenberg, but I don't think there was anything too wrong with it. Kaspering doing what he needed to do. It was Mackenberg, remember, making the mistake a bit early on as well. So yeah, certainly a very good and fun event indeed. So yeah, we thank you all for watching this 2.4 hours of Daytona for 2022. Do look out, obviously, on the competition pages to see what you can get yourself involved with and get your rating up as well. But yeah, that's it from Daytona here today. So we thank you for watching, and goodbye.